Hey there! Welcome to our second series of the day. My name is Trixer over here. We got Justin. It's your 14th favorite duo in all of HOTS for casting.
Yeah, there was actually a power ranking.
Yeah.
Number 14, not bad.
I'm pretty proud of that number, honestly.
Yeah.
It's a big bump up from 43. It's good. Feels
Yeah,
good.
Representing NA here on the casting desk. So
I'm
excited to be
actually
here.
really excited because we have a fantastic match coming up. One that you'll have a lot of information about because you had the legendary experience of being a sub in. We have Team Copium taking on Diamond Hands up next. Copium has all 5 players, which I'm excited for, but before we move into that, recap everyone. If they missed it, you subbed in. What was it like?
Yeah, it was definitely an experience playing on stage with the European team. They drafted pretty standard stuff. It felt all just kind of standard across the board, but I've been told that they're a team that does a little bit of some weird shenanigans, and we are in elimination time, so things might get a little bit strange for the European team. 5 shots of Copium. I'm excited for that. I'm hopeful that we see some cheese come out, because when your back's against the wall, when it's in the elimination match, that's when you're going to bring out the cheese if you have it.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we see some special strategies here in this
Day
match.
2 is definitely when you bring out the weird things. And it's going to come down to, like, how do you handle those tanks? Because right now, Diablo seems to be a problem for everybody. And we've seen some adjustments so far. You have double bruiser. You have bait and switches that's happening. In fact, that's one thing that I want to talk about a little bit is North America. Since the last couple of years that I've actually casted them and when I thought they were potato tier, they've actually improved a lot more since then in terms of baiting, their macro, all this stuff. And I'm actually impressed. Like, I've seen so many moments where it's like, hey, Rhaegar, step up a little bit. We got you. And people will sacrifice themselves to set up for that Diablo engagement. I'm happy to see more of that.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is just that the tanks that we have now have been playing the game for quite a long time.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who kind of filled the void of no tanks in NA for a while, where no one really wanted to play the role, and with all the people coming and going through the scene, now you have people finally kind of taking on that responsibility of playing the tank and learning it well. Caesar Salad from Diamond Hands, one example of that. I remember him back in the day, way back, as sort of like a monk player, a Rhaegar main, a monk player, just really strong support.
Yeah.
Since the last 2 seasons of CCL especially, he's become a tank player, and he's starting to really excel on the role. So it's really cool to see the evolution of NA tanking as we get into this sort of new era of HOTS.
Now, on the other side, our number 3 seed Copium will be playing today. And yesterday, as mentioned, we had you come in and sub for them for a little bit until Gaff was able to show up. And he came into game number 2, and it was the best of 3 series, and he looked a little rusty. To be fair, massive flight, flying across the world, very difficult. Rushing to a land and being thrown onto a computer that you're not quite ready for can be difficult. He had a couple of really quick kills that hit his way, but he found his stride halfway through the game, so I'm excited to see him in a full series today. It is a best of 5, and we can see if we're going to be getting that special cheese, those special strategies that could be coming out. You know, there's been rumors of certain characters that could be popping up. You know, someone that I was reminded of that has been on my mind for the last 24 hours. I don't know if we'll ever see him, so don't get your hopes up. But Chen, like, these characters that, like, they can surprise you if you are willing to pull them out.
And Nintori in particular from Diamond Hands is a player who's been kind of known for his Chen in the past.
Sure.
So if someone was going to pick it at the entire event, Nintori would be my player to pick it. And like I said, it's elimination day. I love this moment. Like knowing that your tournament life is on the line, you really start to see anything any team has saved. You're not going to play that in the play-ins. You're not going to play that before your potential end of like the tournament exists. When the stakes are so high, we could see the Chen from Nintori. We could see more Nazebo coming out from 5 shots of Copium like we saw yesterday.
Yeah, the Ravenous Spirit.
Yeah.
There's something about having your back pin against the wall that just really brings out the best in a lot of people, and I think that's why we all come here to watch said competitions. We want to see what people do when they are put in a position where they have to earn their W. We've already had Pez eliminated from the tournament. I walked over to BBJ afterwards, like, how'd you guys do? And he was like, we 3-0'd him. It was easy. And I was like, all right, they took that in stride. But this is where the competition starts to get really, really, really serious as we build up towards tomorrow on Sunday. Now, let me go ahead and check in and make sure all of our teams are ready. Amazing players so far as well that I'm going to have you guys keep an eye on is Hebi for the Copium, the number 3 seed here for Europe. Hebi has this uncanny ability to kind of just be in the right place at the right time that he seems to be continuing to develop, and I can't wait to see what he can pull off today with the Rhaegar, the Lucios that consistently keep coming out.
Yeah, and the Stukov is something that we haven't seen a ton of. We've seen it a little bit, and Hebi is just known for that hero. You think of Stukov in NA, and Hebi is just pretty much the undisputed king of that hero. So with the low blow, with the continuous puddles, we'll be excited to see if Diamond Hands does something like that. And historically, we've seen Diamond Hands also play some weird things with Medivh. There was a combo where they did the Stukov, Medivh, and Nazebo zombie wall, which was one of the most just disgusting combos in HOTS I've ever seen. the ley line into the zombie wall with
Sure.
the puddle underneath. They have some cheese prepared. I hope we see some crazy drafts.
We'll see if we get more Nazebo. We've already had him once in the tournament. We've had one Medivh as well. Let's get some more. Let's hop into our next matchup. Tomb of the Spider Queen, Copium, taking on Diamond Hands. All right, straight to the draft. Now, we saw our first matchup earlier, and we saw a lot of support chokes already happening. The Brightwing, Rhaegar usually getting taken out, Lucio being forced. And while it didn't really work out for Pez in the first series, is that something that we can see more of this weekend?
Definitely the support choke seems to be a bit of a priority. Lucio in particular has seemed to be just a nearly permanent ban for pretty much every region right now. You see all the different priorities for all the different regions, but Lucio does feel like something that sort of just crosses through all the regions and is just universally strong. Also, the Rhaegar has seen quite a bit of play. The level 20 Ancestral from Rhaegar seems very, very strong. When you get there, level 20 is such an important moment to have some kind of power spike. When you have the Rhaegar having the double Ancestral, it can just completely win a fight for your team. So
I mean, those abilities were created to end the game, so I hope they're pretty strong. Johanna is going to be banned out, another mainstay for tanks. It's interesting that we haven't seen many Diablo bans. Do we feel like Diablo is in that weird spot where he's just good enough to where you don't want to get rid of him, or do you think teams will start adjusting that into their ban?
A lot of the issue with the banning of Diablo would just be that you're kind of playing from a limited pool of priority tanks to begin with. So now that Johanna's banned, there's more likelihood to see a Diablo either picked or banned, depending on how you want to play the draft. Because in this first pick position, you're mostly thinking about you want to maybe limit it to 3 OP picks if you're second pick, or just 1 if you're first pick. You want to create a situation where, of the limited priority picks that you have as a team, that you're able to kind of get just a numbers advantage from that. So Diablo might be a priority here. Even in the bans, if they want to make both teams make a tough decision. We do see Brightwing banned. Rhaegar is kind of the standout for the supports, but Blaze has been a priority pick. Diablo is still available. Lots of things still available here for the first pick.
Okay, I'm ready to see what Copium's got stored in for them here. Best of 5 series, got to put it all on the line. This is effectively their first real series of the tournament, again with Gaffalo finally getting a night's rest. Now Blaze, who has been a mainstay for many of our side laners, will get picked up. It seems like we have Yrel, Blaze, and Dahaka, and those are like the uncontested top 3 that we've been getting from a lot of our side laners.
Yeah, we have seen a little bit of Leoric coming out, mostly as what seems to be a counter to the Blaze. So we'll see if there's less priority for the offlaner for Diamond Hands. Maybe they'll look to pick that up later on. Support has been choked pretty heavily. They don't pick up a support. They do go with the Yrel and the Sylvanas. Sylvanas just seems extremely strong in pretty much every situation. But this does feel a little bit risky, giving away a potential Diablo while banning Johanna. We could see the tank pool choked for Diamond Hands much later in the draft.
Yeah, it's really rough here, too. With Yrel being grabbed, you have 2 options on the tank to really play her with. You can play her with Diablo, you can play with the Nubrak, and those are probably your best hard engages because she wants to bolster out that engage and really follow it up with the knockback. Diablo's going to be grabbed, and we get a Chromie for the lock-in. Chromie's always been a mainstay on Tomb of the Spider Queen, but we've seen, I think, 2 Chromies this tournament so far. I'm ready to see what exactly we're going to get from our European team.
Yeah, I do recall Madara on Chromie getting kind of hunted by the Malthael in an unexpected matchup yesterday.
Pleasantly surprised, though, on the play still, even though you get hunted down by the Malthael. I love the use of time traps in particular. That was something that I think all of us can learn from. The team would walk over, jump on the time trap, be frozen out, and they would get free damage afterwards. Sergeant Hammer banned out. Sergeant Hammer continues to be strong in Europe. In particular, they love to run Sergeant Hammer and Sylvanas on big maps. This is a bit of a smaller map, but still, Sergeant Hammer brings value.
Yeah, and we could see another tank ban potentially coming out, potentially the Muradin to block out pretty much all 3 of the priority tanks that we've seen. There's not a whole lot of options beyond the Johanna and the Diablo, so we'll see if Diamond Hands does get punished for not picking the tank in their first 2. That's kind of the expectation. Nubarak is banned away, so Muradin is sort of that next hero that you'd expect to see, but playing an aggressive Muradin into... Well, and playing Muradin into Diablo, Chromie, and even Blaze, you really want to be able to jump into the backline on Muradin to get value with your avatar, with your just excessive HP pool, and into the Blaze with Bunker, into Chromie with Time Traps, into the big HP pool of the Diablo. I'm not really sure if Diamond Hands has a... Potentially they're going to do something weird. Maybe even see like a Zool Medivh composition coming out or something.
There's a Stukov. You were talking about that earlier.
Hebi. That's a signature pick for Hebi. We'll see if they're able to get value. They also have the Entomb alongside it, so very scary combination. You don't need the Buried Alive at 20 because you pretty much have that from level 10 with the combination of the Stukov Huddle and the Entomb.
That's a really good point to point out there. Good kill potential, good wave clear for Diamond Hands. Copium. I used to really enjoy wave clear for Chromie, and I feel like the wave clear's pretty good here with Blaze already. Something that kind of sets up her to be able to move forward, but they actually go the opposite direction instead, and we get Malfurion and Tracer, which is an old 1-2 pick that you put together with you being able to put the seed on top of Tracer and bring in the harass. You keep her alive for a substantially long time. He kind of came into place from Tassadar getting reworked. Malfurion became the new go-to a lot with her.
Okay, so very unique strategy coming out from Diamond Hands already in game 1. They have the Malfurion, or the Uther and the Stukov, which is probably just the best double support combo that you can have in the entire game. Stukov has the sustain healing, as well as just damage if you're able to enable him with an Uther with the big slaps. Uther gives armor to everyone, and they're running it with a hybrid sort of almost triple non-tank tank composition. You have Yrel, Leoric, and Uther, which all sort of fill that tanky role without being true tanks. And you have just damage as well. You have percent damage coming out from Leoric, potentially from Sylvanas as well. I do like this composition, and it should, for the most part, make Tracer relatively useless. I'm not a huge fan of Tracer in most situations. I think the main reason for that is this potential of just point-and-click CC with the Uther and the healing. The fact that double support exists makes these heroes a lot riskier to pick. And I'm a little bit concerned for the side of Copium with the Tracer into the double support.
Justin, I'm putting you on the spot. Pick one. Who's going to win right now?
Diamond
Copium
Hands.
or Diamond Hands?
Diamond Hands,
All right, I'm
double
going
support
Copium. Let's hop into it. Tomb of the Spider Queen. Europe taking on North America. All right, sir. Do me a favor. Can you intro the red team for us?
And on the right side, we've got 5 shots of Copium. We've got Nano playing the Chromie, Casper playing the Blaze. We have Vixu playing the Malfurion, Tracer played by Gavlo, and Diablo played by Simply DK.
On the blue side to the far left, Diamond Hands. Nentori on Yrel, Maka on Sylvanas, Caesar Salad on Uther, Heavy on Stukov, and Fancy Pants playing Leoric. Here we go. It's all about wave clear. What are the keys to victories for our European team? I think we focused a little bit on Diamond Hands in the draft. What do you see happening for Copium?
So their draft should, for the most part, be able to win the wave clear in the early game. They do have a little bit more wave clear between the Chromie and the Blaze than most of the members of Diamond Hands. Diamond Hands does have the Stukov and the Leoric, so it's not bad for them. Most likely, Diamond Hands is going to be looking to group with their Sylvanas and get split push, just kind of like group push pressure through what looks like bottom. And it's going to be just a lot of defensive play and allowing your Tracer to try to get 2v1s anywhere on the map. It's not super easy to get Tracer value if the enemy looks to just 4-man. Typically, with Tracer, you want to just disrupt the rotations between middle and bottom. That's the normal setup. But here we see Diamond Hands has swapped it to their Leoric is in the solo lane. Most likely, Tracer is going to be just going to where Leoric is because he is going to get absolutely bullied and outranged by the Tracer.
Speaking of bullied, Diablo grabs him, slamming on the ground there, does some decent damage. He'll have him go down to a quarter HP now. He will survive. Fancy Pants being able to get some fancy moves and walk away from the fight. But what we've been seeing so far is Gaflo is just following the Diablo around, moving forward for harassment, and then Chromie comes afterwards and attempts to try and get some poke in. With that pulse bomb being built up and being available, we can start to see some harass there. In Europe, it's a bit of a main focus for a lot of Tracer players to just keep throwing out that pulse bomb. You just want to harass people, get to a point where they start to feel that sustain issue. The problem is Diamond Hands double support here, and that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, double support with the Sylvanas. This was a similar situation to where I found myself when I was subbing 4 or 5 shots of Copium, where we kind of potentially threw the game on the neutral objective camp. They're not making the same mistake in this game into the double support, backing up, just giving that away. I like to see that from 5 shots of Copium. That's probably what me and them should have done yesterday.
Sure. Is that entire subbing just completely playing over your head over and over and over again? Like
just that camp, pretty much. The early camp has, yes, I'm getting PTSD from the camp. And they might have too. They gave it up. That's a smart play because on the side of Diamond Hands with the double support, they want to group and they want to force through bottom.
All right, first night camp grab on the far left for Diamond Hands. This will be echoed back by Casper on the far right. Usually you have one team try to grab the pressure, and then you have the defense immediately afterwards. We're building up on gems 25 to 24, and typically you won't be seeing too much aggression until about that 40-50 mark on gems. And you're trying to find a pick, not normally trying to get that full turn in, but you want people to get away from those waves and force the issue.
Yeah, the Chromie pick is going to be extremely useful in the early game here because with the Sylvanas and the double support, you really want to group up and siege. Grouping up and sieging into the Chromie is quite difficult, as we're going to see here. And especially later on, once the slowing sands come in, things get very, very hard when you're trying to siege into the Chromie. You have the Qs over the wall, you have the Ws to clear the wave, and eventually you also have the slowing sands. That hero is nearly impossible to siege into, and we'll see if Diamond Hands is able to make a pivot and kind of just dodge the Chromie.
So we have W build coming in from Chromie, which could be good for wave clear, but there is also a case for that temporal loop. Now with Uther having a cleanse and a divine shield and whatnot, it makes it a little bit more difficult, but it is something to keep in mind here. I'm assuming it's going to be slowing it or slowing Sands, but what do you think about temporal loop here? Too hard to pull off?
It's probably a little bit too risky, especially in the late game. You're going to have the cleanse from Uther. You'll have even your own cleanse. You can unstoppable with Sylvanas, Leoric. I think that's just too much unstoppable. A large blast there, a W coming out from the Chromie, just chunking them, but it is double support, so likely very difficult to get kills until 5 shots of Copium are level 10.
With the Indoor Anomaly too, you're having multiple traps being available to follow up with that W build. Nano actually pulling up that Leoric. Oh my gosh, you called that earlier there. Poor Fancy Pants having a rough time. Diablo
nice
goes
root.
in, straight into a root. Sylvanas looking down. She is now sleeping. Maybe nappy time. Maka turns around though, puts some damage on Simply, and is going to force him retreat. A solid trade overall. But on the bottom side, another engagement has happened. Zentori is by himself on Urel. Can Gaffalo get some decent damage? He sure can as he gets the auto text, but no pulse bomb.
Yep. Tracer, the bane of the offlaners. Anyone who's played offlane into a Tracer that's just 2v1ing you the whole game, it is an unfun time.
Yeah.
Having her always constantly out of range. They're going to have to get a lot of value there. Gaffalo goes in again with the pulse bomb onto Nintori. Nintori a little bit low, does have the jump, and no jet propulsion available for Blaze. Just some poke for the offlane.
I feel like there's 3 characters that offlaners hate. It's usually Murden, Genji, and Tracer. Do you think of anything else that you want to face off against? It's usually those 3.
Yeah, pretty much those. Tychus is pretty annoying as well. He comes up there and just miniguns you and just leaves as soon as it's down.
That percent damage is wildly deadly. I like looking at Gaffalo here, though. Let me go and check out his damage, because he's been harassing like crazy. Looking over to him, he's at 9,000. Getting beaten out by Chromie with 15,000 damage. A huge W actually coming in there. Getting some decent damage as well on that back line. Trying to stress out this double support. And the thing about double support compositions is, yes, they do live forever, but the moment you take away one support or you get one pick, they crumble like dust.
Yeah, their composition is very much like the Exodia. Like, they need all 5 pieces, and when all 5 are together, it's nearly impossible to face them.
Yu-Gi-Oh nerd me?
I mean, you take his arm off, I don't think he's that strong. I'm not sure like the details, but it's similar to that. It should be unstoppable as 5, but yeah, as soon as you remove one piece, it really just ceases to function.
Well, it's time to duel as Diablo comes in, does an harassment, slams on the ground, and we have a pulse bomb coming out right away. Decent damage coming in from Copium, but no kill. The heals are a bit too much. It is a temporal loop, by the way.
Huh. That's very brave into the 4 potential cleanses coming out from Diamond Hands. 5, including the D shield, so we'll see if it's able to get value. Chromie right now, they're getting a ton of value. Maka does use the
Sylvanas, there it is! They find a pick, and Sylvanas gets deleted.
Absolutely nuts play coming out so far from Nano on the Chromie. This is not an easy game to play Chromie, not an easy game to play Temporal Loop. It does pay off against all of the unstoppables on the side of Diamond Hands. They get the pick. They nearly got a double kill there. Nano popping off right now, dealing a ton of just ridiculous amount of damage, eating through the double support.
You know, when you think about it, you have a cleanse, you have the unstoppable for Leoric, you have the bubble for Urel, you have Sylvanas is unstoppable as well, but that's only 4. If you have 19 forms of CC, one's gonna have to connect at some point if you're counting numbers, and that's what you're supposed to do in MOBAs.
Yeah, we'll see if the side of the 5 shots of Copium can CC them with every single one on one target and then get the temporal loop. It did work once. We'll see if it works again. Maka going aggressive onto the... No recall available with the puddle coming out from Heavy. Heavy on the Stukov looking very strong as is usual.
That was a massive pick there for Diamond Hands, actually. When this push is coming, this slows down all momentum that was occurring, and they're going to be able to get some decent defense. So Wall in the top lane is going to be taking some damage, bottom lane as well, but Notori has that on lock. Fancy Pants coming in. Now look at the gem count here, as there's actually 50 on top of Leoric at the moment, and he's been teetering on that low end of health for a bit now.
Yeah, it's a huge pick getting that onto the Tracer right as the objective comes out. Not a lot of value is picked up there. Not even an entire wall goes down. It's really, really rough here with the first turn-in. I think a valid strategy on this map is to save your gems and to get them later on. The earlier you turn in, you need to be confident that you can snowball with your gems. If you use your gems, they're not like the same as any other map's objective. Like, you use a resource to get the objective. Most objectives, just getting it is free.
I mean, it's basic budgeting, right?
Yeah,
like, you invest in something, you need a return, or you're poor and living on the street. You know,
yeah,
it's a pretty big
level
deal.
20 and not have any gems left. So we'll see if Diamond Hands gets their turn in and it's able to get an advantage. But so far, that's a pretty large advantage coming into the late game, losing those gems.
Night Camps being pushed in the middle lane, which will give a little bit more wiggle room here for Diamond Hands. Fancy Pants trying to drop off. Can he get it? The Chromie poke from across the map is just a bit too much. Maka finds a mind control on Chromie, though, and Nano is forced to be pulled in, and that gives Fancy Pants enough time to get the turn in, and he wants to fight. He drops down an Entomb, gets off the creepy hand, does some decent damage, and with a bunker coming out, Copium can retreat and start to defend.
Yeah, a nice bunker coming out there to be able to get the Diablo out of the Entomb, but they also use the Tranquility as the Web Weavers are coming out, so no big team fight ultimates still going to be left for doing damage here. You do have the Temporal Loop, but there's the Unstoppable, there's the D-Shield. It's just too many forms of cleanse, too many removals of CC.
I mean, yes, but also that gets Divine Shield out. That's major cooldowns being used, and Temporal Loop is a very low cooldown. Look at that, 45 seconds versus the 85 of Uther.
True, and they do have the Fire Breath, so that is still something that they're going to be able to use here to look to defend. And there is the Sylvanas, though, to potentially push it. They might even look for a dive if they get a good engage here. They are 3 versus 4 in the mid lane. It's a little bit risky to defend here, but they do have the Chromie. That is quite safe. Diablo does get mind controlled. Not sure if there'll be enough damage.
Decent damage. Put him down to half HP. Another hit. Time Trap comes out to keep him alive. That is actually going to last for the entire duration of the Entomb, so they couldn't focus him down. At the same time, Blaze in the bottom right was trying to rotate in and go for a flank so they could force a fight, but Notori did a great job of keeping Casper at bay by stepping up on Urel.
Yeah, Notori on the URL doing a really good job of winning that 1v1 against the Blaze. Yeah, boy getting poked out quite a bit by Nano just constantly in this game. It feels like Nano and the Chromie is really what's kind of keeping the draft together for 5 shots of Copium. The 13s come in a little bit earlier. I'm expecting both teams to look at this bottom camp pretty soon here. Diamond Hand's likely the ones to win that out. They're just potentially going to give the turn in if Blaze... Yeah, Diamond Hand's setting up on this turn in. They're saying, we are fighting for this turn in right now. Do you want to 5v5 us?
Simply says yes. He moves in, doesn't Entomb. Temporal Loop is available. Here comes the combo. No, a cleanse. Last second from Uther. Beautiful done there by Caesar Salad. And Tori continuing to push out the bottom portion of the map, but it is really scary right now for both of our teams. Simply is looking for a fight. He wants to put someone into a wall instantly.
Yeah, both teams are really just fighting over this bottom turn in here. We have a lot of damage coming out from Gaflo onto Heavy. The mind control does miss. A lot of cooldowns just being exchanged, but not a lot gained. It does seem like 5 shots have forced them back. But the turn in top, Notori actually snuck the turn in top on the URL.
Nice, dropping off those gems. That will give them a little bit more momentum. They would love to get this fort in the middle. It's already down to half HP and potentially a second one. Gaflo takes the opportunity to step up and get a pulse bomb on Fancy Pants, but he'll heal that up over time, and Gaflo can once again start building up another pulse bomb. Let's see how this defense unfolds for both of our teams. Man, it feels like we've gotten a lot of action, but it's only 1-1 in kills.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. Nano, like I said, is really kind of just keeping this team in the game with the damage. Against the double support, it's hard to poke them out, but he's been managing to do that. We do have 4v4 in the bottom lane. A lot of focus here as Tracer is split in the top. We'll see if Diamond Hands can get a lot of value here. They don't really need to, as their scaling is pretty good with the double support, and it is a good defense coming out. We'll see if Tracer is able to defend against the URL. Mid fort does fall, so some structural value gained, but not really in the lanes where you need it. Mid lane, not the most valuable fort here on this map.
Mind control comes out. While we're still in this situation, Leoric kind of being the pseudo main tank here. What do you think about his build? He's gone in for the level 1 Q, Consume Vitality into Ghostly Reach. A little bit more on that wave clear, keeping up the big swings, whereas something where a lot of folks might go for a full Drain Hope build to try and get percent of damage on that Diablo.
So his build is designed to be kind of a hyper carry in the late game. I'm expecting him to go the Burning Despair at level 20.
Gotcha.
Double support really wants to enable someone with lifesteal, someone who has percent damage, just a late game carry. And Leoric with this build, with the potential for the 16 drain damage as well, is going to be filling that void at level 20. So they're going to be playing a lot around Fancy Pants on this Leoric as the game progresses.
Very interesting. Thank you for that insight. All right, straight into another tournament at the very top. Gaflo dropping down the 22 gems, but there should be easy harassment here as it continues to be proved difficult. Now, the thing is, while they're doing this turn-in and harassing their opponents, on the bottom side of the map, Giants have been left to roam 3, and they actually take a 4, it looks like, giving more pressure to Diamond Hands. Diamond Hands displaying, once again, and I don't think we actually focus on this much in the draft, they love macro gameplay. They are cool with just floating around the entire game and slowly edging you out of the match.
Yeah, especially with the Tracer into the double support, with having 2 offlaners as the way that you ran this double support between the URL and the Leoric, typically a double support composition really fails when they're split up, but they kind of thrive in this environment with those 2 offlaner picks in the URL and the Leoric. They're able to sort of just control either offlane, either side lane with one of those offlaners. It's not enough for the Tracer to just bully one of them out because the other one will always be getting value. Although Yaboy potentially getting picked here, the 16's not quite there yet for 5 shots of Copium. Loop goes out, but the easy cleanse for the Uther.
Still enjoying these trades overall. Divine Shield is still up and available. Here's the Web Weavers to start moving in. Can Copium find any angle to force a fort to go down? I'm actually looking at this defense in the layered minion aggro, and they're in a great position to layer out every single defense so Diamond Hands can go from top, middle, and bottom. Or I'm sorry, top, bottom, and then middle, and hold it here. I'm actually really worried about a fort not going down.
Yeah, and clearing top first here is definitely the priority for Diamond Hands. If they get ahead enough and they feel that their only real way of losing is if 5 shots of Copium runs it down top, that's a valid strategy on this map.
With the boss,
is,
of course.
Yeah, eventually playing for the boss and playing to just push top. If you fall far enough behind, that's a kind of a must-needed strategy. It's something that you do often on Sky Temple and bottom, and you have to do that here as well. So Diamond Hand's very happy to be able to get that clear in the top lane. 5 shots of Copium might start feeling desperate. We do have the D-Shield come out. The Fire Breath is also there. It's poking them out. Caesar Salad getting extremely low.
There we go. Lightning Breath coming in, getting Caesar low. Fancy Pants trying to step up. Simply Low as well. Jumps into a Boker at the second. There is going to be a huge W coming out from Chromie. Diablo gets knocked into a wall, though, and it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Diablo will be back, but he is certainly lower on HP. And just to give you an idea of how much damage Chromie is doing right now, she's at 65,000. That poke damage is being healed like crazy, because if you look over to the healers, Stukov is at 55,000 healing.
Yeah, Chromie is doing nearly as much damage as everyone on the side of Diamond Hands besides Maka combined. So a ton of damage coming out from Nano, but it doesn't seem like it's quite enough to poke out the double support. As it is 2 supports, it's not just one, or he would be poking all of them out. They are going to make the play for bottom as they do get the pick onto the Uther. They have the 5 versus 4, and they also have the next Web Weaver phase. So they're going to be kind of running out of steam after this if they don't manage to get enough with this turn-in. This is extremely important that they can snowball with this, because they will be out of gems and unable to really continue getting just a real advantage. You want to end the game before 20 with your turn-ins.
Got to shout out Copium in that bottom lane, pushing out the minion wave to make sure that Web Weaver gets all the way to the keep wall, which forces Sylvanas to come down and defend it. And this finally gives them that wiggle room, a little bit of breathing to be able to go to the middle, take out that fort, and if their opponents aren't able to rotate over it, if they come in for an engage X in the bottom left, they can start working their way towards the middle keep wall as well.
And look at Nintori on Urel here. He's still just split pushing in the top lane. He's not worried about this at all. As long as Diamond Hands doesn't get engaged on, Nintori's very happy with it. He's going to get the free clear, but 5 shots of Copium very aware of that. They want to play as aggressively as possible. A big poke over the wall there coming out from Nano on the Chromie, but this is like the Tracer, like I talked about, it's really rough into double support. There's really no way, unless you can like split up the fight and split up the team, there's really no way to get value in a 5 versus 5. There's just a lot of defense, a lot of healing. Like, who do you go on as the Tracer, especially when you're this deep?
Yeah, I think you just pick a target that you can get close to and throw out Pulse Bomb ceiling right there. Just go in, keep up the harassments, keep building those up. That's your main job. What you're trying to do is distract everyone away from Chromie. Let Chromie siege. Because, like, a lot of folks kind of look at Chromie and they go, she's so far away, I can't really touch her. But one of the main things that you can do is, as a tank player, you can threaten the idea of an engage. And if you're able to do that, Chromie suddenly can't siege your way. And Tracer kind of negates that by just being completely chaotic in the backfield. And with her recall ability, and Baksu in particular, she is left uncontested many times.
Yeah, it is creating a lot of space for Nano, but it's a dangerous game for the Tracer. If you get stunned up once by the Caesar Salad on the Uther, you can get that into the Stukov puddle, into an Entomb, and there's nowhere to run. Even just the mind control is probably enough time to kill the Tracer. So we see Gafflo getting a little bit low here, but he's just going to be kind of the distraction as the rest of the team does pick up the camp. They are trading this for bot, which is good because they are down level 20s. Anything that 5 shots of Copium can get right now, they'll be happy with.
Level 20 is here, as you just mentioned, and there are 98 gems in the hand of Diamond Hands. They really are Diamond Hands. They've been holding these gems throughout the entire match. That means they'll have a couple of turn-ins they can do back-to-back if they would like to do so. And with them having a small window here of 20 to 19.25, they are looking for a massive push. They are grabbing the Night Camp. They got the Giants in the bottom. They want everything blue and pushing across and try to get some keeps.
Yeah, they have about half a level to work with here before 5 shots of Copium is going to be level 20, and they're going to have the turn-in as well. We'll see if Diamond Hands is able to get an advantage during this window, as it's extremely important. Try to snowball your advantage here. They do have another turn-in in the bank, so that's an advantage out of this. This first turn-in, not super important if they're able to chain it, but they need to at least push 5 shots of Copium deep enough into their base that they can get that other turn-in for free.
And for Copium, just play the defender's advantage. You just wait it out. There are waves coming your way, and they got that juicy, juicy experience. Just make sure not to get picked. And just get an idea real quick, looking over to Diablo. Diablo's at 45 souls of the 100 that he needs. So he's not in a position where he's tanky enough to take a lot of the beatings. We're going to play him a little bit more passive than what we've seen in the past.
And surprisingly, Fancy Pants not going with the Burning Despair at level 20. That was really what I was expecting, to have him be sort of just a hyper carry in the late game for the double support. Still going with the Buried Alive, so that means that his Entomb does have quite a bit more threat. There's no need for Heavy to be constantly watching it. to get the instant lurking arm underneath it. Anyone gets hit by that Entomb, and they're going to be in big trouble.
Just want to note the level 18 pickup here for Chromie was actually stuck in a loop, which means it's going to pull back twice, which kind of helps negate some of those cleanses.
Okay,
and also has a low cooldown.
That's the buried alive.
Malfurion providing the heal, simply trying to hold, and he actually cannot move out, and he is dead. Remember, he didn't have enough souls. He only had 70 at the point, and they're in a 4v5, and the wave clear, and the threat of an engage suddenly goes down dramatically, and guess who has a turn-in and a boss available?
Potential boss turn-in coming out from Diamond Hands. We'll see if they're going to be willing to force the boss. I think they should. They're all going for the boss right now. Whether 5 shots Copium think they can defend against this is kind of debatable. They're going to look to turn in and negate the boss turn-in. Yeah.
This is pretty much the trade-off that you're going to see in a lot of high-level games. If you know for a fact that they've gone to a boss and you're at a disadvantage and you cannot engage, go for the turn-in. You're going to get a push in the middle and the bottom. They have to go defend that, which gives you the chance as a five-man unit to focus down the boss, and so that will be the play here. There are a couple of options for Diamond Hands. They can either A, wait and attempt to go for a fight, or they can play defense and go for another turn-in afterwards. But it looks like they're actually going straight for a fight. They're going for Tracer. She's buried alive, and she's deleted. Tracer is taken off the map.
And they're still in a 5v4 with the boss in top with the Sylvanas. They do get the damage going onto Blaze. Blaze likely to go down here as well. That's probably just game. If they want to, they can just push through mid. They can also push through top with the Sylvanas trait and the boss. That's what they're choosing to do. They're going to disable the fort and just ignore the enemy Webweaver. That was a kind of a difficult situation for 5 shots in the end. Being in that situation, it's kind of a lose-lose if you trade your turn in like that. We have 5 versus 3 on the core. We'll see if they're able to get anything. Simply DK steps forward, does get the mind controlled. Nintori in the backline just bullying the Tracer in a 1v2.
And the core's in trouble too. The shield is starting to go down there. It goes down to 90, now to 80. Chromie just stuck in a time loop right now of her own, and she's hiding. We have Malfurion just running to the gold stash in the back right, but he's going to get bullied into submission as Fancy Pants and Notori move up. And with that core continuing to fall, it looks like we're going to be able to get all of our players a win here as Diamond Hands go up 1-0 over Copium.
Yeah, and especially after seeing one NA team get knocked out earlier today, I'm excited to see Diamond Hands come out with some strength here in game 1.
Yeah.
With the unique draft, the double support with the 2 offlaners as sort of their main tanks alongside the Uther. A cool composition coming out from Diamond Hands. They played it well. They played to their strengths, and I'm impressed with Diamond Hands.
Yeah, I feel like they flipped the entire storyline that we've seen from them as well, where they're more of a macro team. They're always trying to like delude you into moving into a different lane, and they'll try and backdoor you, etc. This time, they got a kill, ran to the boss, had it pushing into the top lane, and they just ran across the map past a minion wave and then forced a fight, which is something that you need to see more, right? You need to keep your opponents on edge. You need to be able to surprise them with strategy here and there. And that one pick, as you saw, was enough to open the floodgates. Tracer's down, Chromie suddenly exposed, Diablo's on his way. Beautiful play for Diamond Hands, and I hope that we get more like that. Now, with that being said, with Copium running over to them, I felt like they were actually playing a nice passive, I wouldn't say relaxing, but a nice methodical game. It just didn't really flood out the way they want, and with simply getting picked off, it seemed to crumble real fast.
Yeah, the composition was definitely difficult to play as well into the side of the double support with the double offlaner. Tracer really wants to bully the offlane, and double support typically wants to group up, but this one didn't. This one was okay with having 2 offlaners to soak both the waves, and Tracer can stop one of them, but she can't stop both of them. So at pretty much all points in the game, you're losing the macro to a double support team that should win the 5 versus 5 as well. It's just a really, really well thought out comp from Diamond Hands. They definitely came into this with a strategy, and with their tournament life on the line here, as we are in the losers bracket, you love to see that. You love to see that there was a lot of thought and preparation going to this draft. It wasn't just, we'll see what they do. We'll figure it out. Like,
yeah.
It was. I'm sure that this was planned.
Good for them, because you know, I heard last night that Diamond Hands was actually putting in the work and studying and preparing for their matches, and those are the kind of things that you have to do in a tournament scenario. You know, folks that are not thinking constantly about what's going to happen in the tournament are doomed to fail. And so I hope at the same time that we had that preparation for Copium as we get ready for game number 2. So Sylvanas continues to be a problem in this tournament. I'm starting to realize that is a real issue. Is this something that European teams may want to start picking up earlier?
Most likely, yeah. We've seen pretty much in every game, it just gets tons of value, especially in the 13 to 16. It becomes just a unkillable range that's just going to start shredding down your entire team. And if you try to focus them, there's so many tools. You have the Haunting Waves, you have the Unstoppable on your 16 if you choose to take it. Both of her ultimates are extremely strong, and disabling structures just feels kind of like an added bonus on what is already just a strong mobile ranged carry.
Yeah, I think that Haunting Wave is the real major thing that you pointed out, that you highlighted. Just being able to be like, all right, I can engage here, but it doesn't look too good. Let's go ahead and reassess 12 seconds later and go in for another fight. So we'll potentially see that. Another thing as well is I want to shout out Diamond Hand for banning Sergeant Hammer. She has continued to be an issue here as well. We saw Bang Bush do a wonderful job, actually, last night running the split push Sergeant Hammer, which is something that I have opinions on as a player, but no one can really argue against that. It's strong.
Yeah, Sergeant Hammer feels to me to be the most oppressive hero in the entire game to play against as a tank, at least. You kind of just passively lose value being within the radius of the Sergeant Hammer. She's just chipping away at your buildings if you're not stopping her, chipping away at your heroes in a team fight, especially around any kind of objectives. If you're fighting over the Shrine, if you're fighting on Towers of Doom around an objective, you're just constantly getting barraged. And if you're not fighting against her, then she's split pushing your buildings and you need to send 2 people to deal with her. So Hammer's a little ridiculous. We'll see if the priority in the bans continues.
It could be. Maybe not on this map, though. We're getting ready to go into Dragonshire, which is a map that I believe you and I actually haven't seen in our cast so far. This is a map that I'm assuming was picked up by Diamond Hands. We'll get confirmation when we move into it, because I feel like that really fit their playstyle, which means on the other side, Copium is looking to go for those priority picks. They want to get that first pick. They would love to adjust their draft and see if they can assess what exactly Diamond Hands is doing a little bit differently.
Yeah, this is a map that double support doesn't really function on. I'm a big fan of double support in general, but Dragonshire is a map where you have a lot of skirmishes, you have a lot of 2v2s and 3v3s, and that's really not what double support does well. Double support typically wants to group as 5 or group as 4 and just push a lane as much as possible, force you to fight around an objective. Dragonshire, all about the small skirmishes, all about the 1v1s, the 2v2s, not allowed to do that. So we'll see if they have a plan, a strategy in mind, and this should be probably a better map for 5 shots of Copium.
I think I agree with you. The robustness is usually what you're going to be going for when it comes to your draft. You want a meaty frontliner. You want a bruiser that can follow that up as well to get you those quick kills. That Bermuda Triangle down the bottom right, we've talked about it for years. It's one of the strongest things for you to control on Dragonshire. You do that, that's where you sneak in those 1 to 2 pickups. Suddenly you grab Merc Camps, you grab both Shrines, you take a Dragon, and you try to run it down into a fort, and of course try to get that experience lead. Now, with that being said, you got to make sure you have some game enders here as well, because although the Dragon's really, really strong, it's still pretty difficult to straight up just flat out in a game with it.
Yeah, the Dragon doesn't really ramp up until pretty late, even later than level 20 typically, if you don't get a lot of kills to be able to end the game with the Dragon Knight.
Yeah.
This map's also just a lot about picks, playing for that vision like you mentioned in the triangle. Also just being self-sufficient. That's why we see a lot more things as well as strong, just because he controls that triangle so well. So I'm expecting a little bit less priority onto the traditional supports outside of the Lucio. Maybe we'll see a Monk come out from one of these teams. This is his best map, as he's willing to just stand and fight you.
Over BOE? You think so? Yeah. Wow, really interesting. Okay.
He'll 1v1 you anywhere on the map here on Dragonshire.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the best way to support is to kill your opponents.
On Dragonshire, yeah,
That's the way to do it. Sometimes. Hey, Hogger Band comes out. I do believe Hogger has a lot of strengths here as a character, being able to maneuver his way between the top shrine down into a wave clear. And then, of course, if you need to sneak off, if you're doing a great job with the wave control, you can grab a Night Camp, which is very pivotal on this map. You don't normally have a 4 or 5-man push in the top lane, but having minions pull somebody away from a 4-man or even a 3-man fight can be monumental. So I like the idea of a Hogger Band. Sylvanas and Lucio will be the takeaways here for Copium.
Yeah, Sylvanas, like you were talking about. On Dragonshire, there's not a ton of ways to get advantages outside of picks in the early game, as the objective isn't very strong early on. So banning away the Sylvanas, not allowing the enemy to have a tool that allows them to snowball just by raw sieging as a large unit is it's a good ban here, as it was used quite well by Diamond Hands in the previous game.
Okay, Copium, what are you going to be grabbing here? Will be an early Diablo. Do we mix in a Sergeant Hammer? Chromie's actually pretty wonderful on this map as well if they were kind of feeling that and felt like they just had a bit of a weird mix-up. We have seen matchups where Tracer will continue to be annoying on those off lanes, which we saw from Gaflo. Can be quite annoying, and he was the entire game. Or will we go for a traditional Blaze? And the answer is a Blaze.
Yeah, one thing that comes to mind on Dragonshire is the Haka priority could potentially go up a little bit. The globals are quite strong. Things like Falstad are pretty strong here as well. But the Genji is still up, which might kind of rock, paper, scissors the Falstad out of an early pick.
Is it a rock, paper, scissors? I feel like it's rock, rock, rock. Like Falstad has such a hard time in that matchup.
Yeah, I think Genji is the paper, and the Falstad falls like a rock whenever he shows up. It's not a fun matchup for a Falstad. But we do see the Dahaka, we see the Brightwing, 2 globals locked up right away for the side of Diamond Hands. Falstad still available. We'll see if any priority is put on that by Team Copium.
Man, I love the adjustments from NA. Like, we used to have the double globals a lot of the time here on Dragonshire for Europe. It was like a main staple. We did have some adjustments like a Rexar throwing up and whatnot, but Dahaka was always a solid one. And North America's been running the globals just as effectively as Europe. So it looks like everyone's kind of learning a little bit from each region. Now, here's where things get wildly fun. Chromie and Sergeant Hammer sieging from across the map. That is a composition that is destructive.
Yeah, two very long-range artillery heroes locked in here between the Chromie and the Hammer. You do have what I'd call a goalie in Chromie, where it's just a hero you can't siege into, which is good to just put in the bottom lane, as that is sort of the priority here on Dragonshire. But they do have the double global to potentially respond to it. So if a siege comes out from Copium, we'll see what Diamond Hands has on the opposite side of the map, if they're going to look to have just Dahaka and Brightwing split and then come in to gank the Sergeant Hammer or the Chromie if they look to siege. If this was Infernal Shrines, it would be extremely scary to have a Chromie and a Hammer. But on Dragonshire, it's a little bit more difficult because they're going to need someone to sort of frontline for them if they're fighting in a 2v2 or a 3v3.
I know Diablo's up and we have our traditional tanks, but follow this train of thought with me for a little bit. What do we think about an ETC? Does he get disrupted so fast against Sergeant Hammer and Chromie that is not worth it? Because we know his health pool's a little low, but man, his abilities are incredibly good, and they're wonderful for trying to force that engagement, but also get a flank, which is where Sergeant Hammer and Chromie can kind of have a rough time.
It's definitely doable. They do have the double global, so it might be almost overkill having that much already, but I'm a big fan of stage dive, especially the level 20 with the movement speed slow is at 80% slow, and it's absolutely gigantic. We see the Muradin come out. He'll get the jump range at 16, which is pretty good for that as well. He also gets the block charges at level 1, which is really strong into Hammer, alongside the Genji, which in these skirmishes is going to be quite powerful. Again, if this was Infernal Shrines, Copium's draft so far would be absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But it's a much harder composition to play on Dragonshire, where there's no central objective that needs to be fought over.
I'm actually really curious if we're going to see a 1-1-3, where you just leave Chromie, Sergeant Hammer, and potentially the healer by themselves. You have the main tank kind of float between middle and bottom lane. To hold it. It's going to be an Ana and a Diablo. Look at that. We haven't seen Ana in forever.
Yeah, actually forever. That's the first Ana I've seen in quite a long time.
Like, I was hoping Banana would pull it out this tournament, but it looks like Copium is going to do it for her first.
So the Nano Chromie is presumably the strategy here. I'm expecting to see a Temporal Loop again then, to be able to just combo them off of it and one-shot them off of it. They do have the Brightwing, which isn't able to cleanse it.
It's a Zagara!
And the response is the Zagara. Diamond Hands coming with the cheese. Both teams sort of coming with some form of cheese to some extent. We have the Ana we haven't seen before. We have the Zagara. Lots of pocket picks coming out here in the elimination match.
I love both of these drafts. Like, first off, what does Sergeant Hammer and Chromie want to do? They want to stay in place. They don't want to move. They want to destroy your buildings from afar. What does Zagara want to do? She wants to stay in her lane, but she wants to push faster than you. And Zagara can certainly do that. And I like how they take away the Genji before picking the Zagara, just to make sure they didn't have a massive flanker coming their way, as well as the Muradin, who would have been great against the Zagara. They took 3 and 4 to make sure their 5 would be a strong pick. This is going to be a great matchup. Lucky to see Ana here. Lucky to see some Zagara. Let's get ready for Dragonshire. Justin, who do you think pulls the win?
This is a much closer one, I think, from the last game. I'm going to go with Diamond Hands, just because I think they have enough tools to dive the Ana in particular. It's very scary playing Ana into the double global, especially with the Muradin and the Genji.
Yeah.
But because of that, yeah. I'm worried for the Ana, but if Ana can survive, we'll see.
I'm going to cheer for the Ana. Let's go ahead and move into it. Game number 2 between Copium and Diamond Hands. On the far left, Diamond Hands playing in the blue. Maka on Genji, Heavy on Brightwing, Caesar Salad to play Muradin, then Tori on Dahaka, and Fancy Pants flexing with the Zagara.
And from Europe, 5 shots of Copium, we've got Simply DK playing the Diablo, Ana played by Vexu, Blaze played by Casper, Chromie played by Nano, and Sergeant Hammer played by Gafflo.
Okay, let's check out builds real quick. Looking straight over to Sergeant Hammer. It's going to be advanced artillery, of course, getting the extra splash damage and basic attack damage, and getting the radius up as well. The idea, once again, destroy walls, but of course stop people from grouping up against you. Fancy Pants actually bring the Zagara straight into the lane, and one of the cool things about Zagara is she makes it hard for Sergeant Hammer to actually siege up. Oh my gosh, massive damage. You throw the Hydra, throw a few Banelings and a few Roaches there, and it's chip damage, but chip damage that keeps coming.
Yeah, Sergeant Hammer and Diablo are both potentially going to struggle against the level 16 Zagara babies that she's going to throw down. Both of them need to stand there. Diablo has to stand there to Lightning Breath.
Zagara babies?
Yeah, they're babies of Zagara, right? Oh. That's in the lore. He makes babies, right?
Yes.
She's the brood mother, right?
She is a brood. You are correct. I just never heard that phrase. And I really appreciate it. Another combo comes in from Maka. Okay, continue your point about the Zagara babies.
So not only does the Lightning Breath although it is unstoppable, you can be pulled into the Maw from Zagara, so that's a counter. And you're also going to just be eating the percent damage at level 16 because you're locked in place with the Fire Breath with the percent damage. Very strong counter into Diablo, but also the Sergeant Hammer and the Ana even are going to be just crawling around. So they're going to be very slow in doing what those heroes do. And the Zagara going to have lots of good value there, just dropping her babies on their backline.
I like the adjustment here from Copium, actually leaving Chromie in the bottom lane with Diablo to kind of protect, and they have Sergeant Hammer in the top right, moving straight in for the Night Camp. This gives you a couple of options. You can either A, go to the top lane and bully out Dahaka, which we've seen Europe is willing to do over and over if they need to. You can move in with the Night Camp and kind of bolster it out, or you just leave it alone, allow Blaze kind of hold that down, and cause some pressure on the inside of the map to pull people away from the bottom and let Sergeant Hammer kind of take the weak lane. It could be middle, it could be bottom, it could be even this camp down here on the bottom right, simply goes in, trying to stop it. Massive damage coming out from Chromie, but Maka's able to get out, and Diamond Hands take away the Giants.
Tons of damage once again coming out from Nano. Is Caesar Salad going to maybe get caught here? He's very low on the wrong side of the map, but potential Dragonite channeled here in the mid lane by Maka. Do they get it in time? He does actually manage to get it, so that's a ridiculous trade. They both got the invade immediately, the DK immediately, all for one Murd, and absolutely nuts.
Now, with that being said, actually the main course here that I'm terrified of are the Giants being grabbed in the bottom lane. You have to clean these up. These actually, I feel like, in the early game do more damage than the Dragon Knight. The Dragon Knight is just an extra health bar, but still, taking it off the map and forcing your opponent to respawn is a massive win in itself. Now, Chromie is me facing off against the Dragon. The Dragon is probably one of the favorite candidates for trying to build up your stacks, and that W, deep breathing, is trying to get done by Chromie, so she dealt with him in the middle lane.
Yeah, Chromie, however, I mean, Nano playing it, getting stacks on this W should be no trouble for this man. He seemed to just really be popping off on it, almost hitting all of them. If the Genji didn't have the deflect in the last fight, would have went down. But already just a massive lead here coming out from Diamond Hands. Being able to get the double Siege Giants in the bottom lane, get the early DK. The Siege from Hammer is going to have to be a little bit more split, I feel, into the double global. It's not going to be an easy, traditional run it down one lane on Hammer strategy like you would want to see. As the globals are going to come in, Maka looking for the dive onto the Blaze. Casper getting super low. Nintori coming up. Does he have the tongue? Is he going to be able to get the dive?
He's trying to play space. He wants to get rid of these minions, but these minions, man, are just too many. And between the teamwork of Nintori and his fellow Genji, they are able to find a kill on the fort, and that's devastating. That fort in the top right corner, if it goes down, that top shrine is suddenly a lot harder to hold, and Copium will have to make adjustments to handle that. Now, as we head back to the bottom lane, we see Nano starting to get low, and with Murden on the flank potentially coming in, they are going to have to back up, retap, and reset themselves. And I want to ask you, while we have a small breather here, what do you think about the Ana build?
It's fairly, I think, ordinary probably on Ana to take the W level 1. The level 4 having the debilitating dart is good, especially into the Genji. You're going to have a Genji probably just permanently looking at you 24/7. If you're able to hit that, you're kind of okay with that, but it is a very small skill shot. So if the Genji is able to sidestep that, the Genji is going to have a very easy time into the Ana. It's just a save yourself button most likely into the Genji.
And the cooldown reduction is also wonderful too, because of that Genji being there. If you do miss it, you get an additional 8 seconds taken off of it. So you're down to 12, but still a hard window for Ana to hit. I'm surprised that they are running for that. At level 7, we have the anti-healer coming in for Ana as well. So keep an eye on her build. Now, Sergeant Hammer in the middle pulls out the Unstoppable. Gafflo trying to bait that in and simply gets in a nice, decent amount of engage on the left side, but there's no real major damage to follow it up.
Yeah, something else to mention with the Ana is it is sort of a traditional counter into the Brightwing. Brightwing's main value is getting that big heal on her Z, getting the blink heal on top of her Z to be able to get that big chunk of healing. If you negate that, it's very telegraphed with the anti-heal grenade from Ana. Very strong to counter that, but they need burst damage to be able to force the teleport from the Brightwing to begin with.
Casper in a situation where he's trying to handle this 1v3 and just hoping that his teammates are able to burn down those towers.
It's a long tongue.
This is a really rough fort. It is going to be going down. And if you look over to Copium, it feels like they're taking their time to move. Initially, they were set up in the middle and working on the turrets. They just want to break down these walls and set themselves up for a dragon later on. But I wish we could have gotten a little bit more, maybe some more damage on that fort in the middle, and then rotate down to the bottom lane, as losing a fort for a couple of walls is not a value trade.
And Gafflo pretty low here as the members are rotating from Diamond Hands. Gafflo potentially getting stunned.
Storm Bolt
does get stunned out by the Storm Bolt into the E from Maka. Vaiksu might be next. He is getting ran down. The Polymorph comes out. Another dash forward by Maka, and that's an easy 2 for 0.
That's a poor loop, but it's going to be on Genji, and he instantly eases away. Beautifully played there by Diamond Hands. They get a couple of kills, and a second dragon is up for the taking. Diamond Hands coming out and playing today.
Yeah, Diamond Hands looking extremely scary as the objective will be picked up here by Maka. Genji now has ascended his true form. Behold, he is the Dragon Knight, and he's going to run it down mid, most likely. I would like to have seen Copium split the map a little bit more with their Sergeant Hammer.
Yeah.
This strategy of just pushing bottom is not working while Diamond Hands is just ignoring them and pushing the side lanes.
And now suddenly, with 1 fort down on the top side, Blaze able to finally enter the back of the minion wave. But look down here on the bottom right. There's nobody here to fan. Ana stepping up and trying to get some heals out. Another drag connects. Satori in the right position. Chromie kiting backwards, getting silenced as well. But with a Dragon Breath to help out, Notori is forced to walk away as the fort wasn't completely destroyed. So a few trades for heroics, but ultimately, when it's all said and done, Diamond Head is up on 2 forts to 0 taken.
And losing your bottom fort at this point for Copium is absolutely devastating with their composition in particular. There's a lot of risks to taking things like the Ana, especially on Dragonshire.
Yeah.
There's a reason she's so rare is there's so many things that counter her. The safety of your bottom fort is what you're relying on for this composition, to have a very short distance to be able to retreat. But as soon as that bottom fort is gone, that is a very, very long distance. One of the longest distances on pretty much any map from the objective is you're going from the middle all the way back to your keep. That's a lot of room for Genji, for Muradin, for Dahaka to chase.
Yeah, so now Copium has to think about how they want to handle this next Dragon phase. Do they stay in the middle lane where they at least have a well, so they have a place to retreat you so they can keep that Ana alive? Or do they risk it for the biscuit? Do they split 4 in the bottom lane, maybe try to have some flankers come in? The issue here with them being so far behind is the double global is just so darn aggressive that you have to put yourself in a situation where your opponents have to respect you and try to force a fight.
Yeah, especially into the late game, the map is going to be very easily split by the double globals when one objective is top and one is bottom. We have the 1v1 coming out here from Nintori that quickly becomes a 2v1, but it looks like Gaflo becomes Little Dinosaur and will run away.
Speaking of dinosaurs, Diablo turns around, is able to get some decent damage on Maka. But look at the experience lead, 12.5 to 12. Copium is hanging there despite being down 2 forts. That lead will continue to get wider as time goes on, thanks to the experience trickle in from our teams. Casper, once again, getting bullied out. Man, he must be just talking to the comms. Hey, guys, it's rough. I need help out here.
Yeah, it feels like pretty much anytime someone steps up on Copium, you have Muradin and Genji, played by Maka, and Caesar Salad just instantly in your face. And now some bravery coming out from Gaflo. Will he get picked off? He does get polymorphed into the tongue, long range, all the way back into the enemy team. Maka with the X-Strike should be able to finish him off. Temp Loop comes out, but not sure that's going to be enough, as they definitely need to retreat here. It's a long way home for Chromie and for Ana especially. They're very squishy, but a lot of damage coming up from Ana to force them back. That was just nano damage. That stopped that whole engage.
Yeah, that was great there, but what I want to talk about before was that initial engagement. Diablo holding that bush in the top left corner. When Muradin came in to flank, he was there to lock him down, but that was why Sergeant Hammer got picked off. Sergeant Hammer was like, oh, I have a Diablo here. If we get engaged on, I can turn it around. It's safe. But because Diablo was preoccupied with Caesar Salad, he was unable to fully go for the commitment to defend his Sergeant Hammer, and that's where the pick happened there. It's all about creating opportunities to take your opponent apart, and Diamond Hands right now are just dealing in spades.
Yeah, a lot of desperation here coming out from Copium. They're looking for any kind of fight they can possibly get. And you see Diamond Hands setting up before this objective even, already having people on it. They're ready for this. Copium's just saying, we need to 5v5, we need to fight, we need to get something. And they're currently in a 5v4, but Diamond Hands has their base right there as the Dragon Knight is just sieging away in the mid lane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate this play. You do have to make a play. It's just that Diamond Hands knows they have to make a play. And when you know your opponent has to be desperate, you just start to play a little bit safer, you wait for the moment, and then you see their cards first, and then you respond back with your trap card as we continue to go into Yu-Gi-Oh! References.
Yeah, Copium wants any fight, and it's much easier to say, as long as we don't take a fight, we're winning, we're chilling. That's the situation you want to be in. It's so comfortable for Diamond Hands right now. They know that as long as they don't do something drastically wrong, they're just going to passively win here with the DK value that they have. And just with the scaling on the map, having the double global, having these heroes who can chase you down, who can run you down, and Genji and Muradin into these really immobile heroes on the side of Copium, they are happy right now. They're chilling.
Yeah, the good news for Copium is defense is actually pretty solid for them. Between a Sergeant Hammer and a Chromie, their siege is there forever. The issue is 2 to 3 minutes afterwards when the dragon starts to pop up and they have to move out on the map like this. And they're trying to force a fight. You see a Jet Propulsion, Casper moving in, looking for Nintori, trying to force a fight. Simply Decay is chasing, but look at Diablo and his little arms. He's like a little T-Rex. He can't get there.
Yeah, curse those little tiny T-Rex arms on the Diablo.
It's the worst thing about evolution.
So potentially, will they fight for this? The Maw comes out. We'll see if Copium get this fight. This is kind of the fight they really need before level 16. Will Diamond Hands contest it?
It's on a camp. They grab the camp. And I like what Diamond Hands did there, actually. They turned around and made sure, they were like, you know what, is this camp worth it? And the answer is no. It's not. You have a Zagara. Throw down a couple of roaches. Get a couple of auto attacks in. Have your Muradin step up. You clean that up, no problemo. Just don't give Copium that moment, that thing that changes the entire momentum in the game.
Yeah, that was the moment Copium needed to get the fight. Diamond Hands very aware of that, knowing that they're almost level 16, that they are in an absolutely perfect spot in this game, taking no risks. Just really well played so far by Diamond Hands. And with this composition of Copium, if this was Infernal Shrines, they could set up on a shrine and they could fight for an objective. There is no clear objective on Dragonshire, no singular thing that you can fight over. There's no reason for Diamond Hands to take any fights right now. I expect them to just run them around the map unless they're able to get an advantageous fight, like right now, potentially.
Oh, engagement comes in, but Ana nails asleep. Caesar Salad can't chase in. He still has a Stormbolt here, looking for it. He wants to see that unstoppable first. There it is, and now an opportunity to get an engagement would be ideal. However, they're too close to the turrets right now. But with you having Sergeant Hammer siege up on the bottom side, this opens up the middle keep that already has a wall down and a night camp. They immediately rotate over. It's weird to say, but Diamond Hands is just straight up out macroing Copium right now.
Yeah, and Diamond Hands on the run, even with their level 16 advantage, they don't consider that enough of an advantage to take a 5v5. They're confident that if they just continue playing the map, if they play with their macro, with their globals, they're going to slowly win this out. So Copium needs to try to just hide in their base for the most part, turtle as much as possible, and try to get level 20. If they can get level 20, and they can even give away a DK and potentially try to fight past it, that's where they should win. If they can set up their defenses and just play that defensive style on the side of Copium with the Chromie, with the Hammer, with the Blaze and the Ana, they stand and they fight. They need a 5v5, and Diamond Hands not going to give it to them.
There's that way, and then of course there's the element of surprise. And they find a trap. It hits two. Maka instantly going to be able to dash away. Dahaka holding that top lane. Every time that we see a fight break out, I immediately look at the minimap and I look at Dahaka. Because that is the signal from Diamond Hands whether or not they're going to actually rotate in and do a fight. They will leave Notori up there all day if they think they can win with it.
Yeah, they are just grouping as 5 right now, looking for any kind of fight they can get. Diamond Hands trying their hardest to not give it to them. You see Zagara here creating pressure, trying to get them to rotate down, but you're kind of playing a dangerous game here on the Zagara. There's this fine line where they're controlling the center, the triangle that you talked about on the side of Copium. This is kind of the danger zone right now for Diamond Hands if they don't play it.
Potentially an engagement in the middle of the map here as we see a couple of people continue to poke. It really comes down to whether or not Ana can land that sleep in a situation that is beneficial for Copium, or whether or not that temporal loop is able to land on top of a target they can take out. I mean, getting a temporal loop on a Brightwing could be a good pick here, but so far, Heavy has been playing great. Dragon Knight is activated. Blaze is clearing the top side. Diamond Hands thinking about making their play for this Dragon, or at least force an issue here. And this is where Gaffalo says, okay, I'm going to siege up a Sergeant Hammer. You can have the Shrine. You can have the Sideways. We'll try to stop the Dragon at least.
Now, through the clever kind of macro on the side lanes, they do end up getting the Dragon Knight activated. Caesar Salad taking a ton of damage in the mid lane, though. He does use the Avatar. As a 1v1 is also occurring in the top lane. You have a 4v4 sort of mid, but Zagara not having any part of it. Heavy getting extremely low here, actually getting forced back. But there's no objective here to be won for Copium outside of kills. They do maybe get it. Caesar Salad getting interrupted there, trying to jump over the wall. He does get flipped, and that's exactly what 5 shots of Copium need to stay in this game.
Wait, why did he go for that? That is insane there, as I really assumed he'd go for it. Oh no, I got the wrong replay. That's my apologies. Hey, that's from last game, guys. Just check out what exactly happened a couple of matches ago. If you missed it, this happened earlier here at the Heroes International. But with the kill getting picked off there for Murden and the bottom shrine being activated, Copium suddenly has breathing room. And here's a big deal. Chromie hits 18. And that's a massive power spike for Copium as they have it 1 level 20 over their opponents.
And not only are they 18, they also have their temp loop available. Their time loop is ready, so they can look for more picks here. They have a 15-second window before the Murden will be up. They're trying to get their mid-fort here. They're trying to slowly siege it, saying, you need to fight us. We're creating pressure on the map. We're grouped up. We're ready to fight. It is 4v4, though, if they choose to take it, as Blaze is in the top lane. We'll see if Diamond Hands wants it. They're going to likely wait for level 20, even give this mid-fort if they have to.
Bruh, this is intense right now. Like, you can just feel both teams trying to hold it here. A ton comes out. Gaffalo able to retreat. That 20 about to connect. I'm staring at the minimap right now. Copium retreating back. Do remember the keep wall is exposed in the middle of the map. Bottom right has a little bit of defenses. We'll see what they can do with this Dragon Knight here.
So they do have the level 20 advantage, and they have the Dragon Knight, which they mostly need to siege, but Copium's composition is made for this. They're made for the 5v5. Yeah. They're made for the defensive, sort of set up your unit and just stand and slowly meat grind through the opponents. This is what they need. Oh, the pick immediately potentially coming out from Caesar Salad, jumping over the wall. Nano does get out, thanks to the 13 smelling salts from Vexu on the Ana.
Buying time, though, getting damage on that Dragon. Chunking it slowly but surely. Diablo is built up completely on his passive, so if he does die, he will be back immediately. Keep continues to siege away, and we are getting down to the nitty-gritty. So far away is 20 for Copium. Temporal Loop comes out.
Taking a lot of damage.
He's low. Another attack. Gaffel keeping up the auto attacks as well.
A lot of damage there. Caesar Salad might get taken out. He does manage to get away for now, and that's likely just a successful defense for Copium. They had the Dragon Knight. That was their moment to end the game with a level 20 advantage for Diamond Hands. They do have a bottom keep exposed now, but Copium did manage to kind of delay the game by grouping up as 5 and just pushing together through middle. We'll see if they continue that strategy once they get level 20s. Copium has a real chance here still in the game. That was an absolutely crucial defense coming out from Copium.
Yeah, there will be catapults in the bottom lane, which will be annoying to deal with. And you see Zagara immediately rotate to the top lane here. And they're like, all right, if you have to defend the bottom lane, let's see if we can get a little bit of damage on the top side. Now, of course, the problem with that is ever since Heroes of Storm came out, we have known that bridge to be the bridge of death, especially against a Chromie and a Sergeant Hammer. There's no wiggle room. Blast damage is massive. Skill shots are easier to hit, so you probably won't see much of a commitment there.
Yeah, outside of a lone Dahaka, very slowly, maybe 15 minutes from now, whittling it away by himself. We're not going to see any likely team fights in that top, in that death bridge. Right now is where Copium is going to be aggressive. There's no Dragon Knight on the map, so there's no real advantage for the globals. We're going to see them just grouping together and trying to force anything. They want to force Diamond Hands to fight them in any way possible. We'll see what they do to try to force that fight.
I love the giant play down here on the bottom left. That should siege down that tower and be quite annoying. As you know, Copium has to defend this bridge on the top right with 2 Night Camps coming in. Ooh, they actually intercept it before he even gets a chance to get to the lane, which is pretty massive. And if you're ever in a situation where you see double push coming in and you have that opportunity, take out that wizard there. That spell aura is pretty darn massive.
Yeah, getting that spell resistance for everything is quite huge, as they did also manage to get the Siege Giants in bottom, which got about half the fort, it looks like. So not a small deal for Copium, as most likely bottom is going to be what they're going to be looking to end through if they do manage to get some picks. And the expectation is that bottom is where Copium is going to set up to just 5-man on the objective. Yep. They sort of have to, right? Because otherwise the split pressure from the catapults, and they're ready to take this fight. They're 5v5. This is what Copium wants. We'll see if Diamond Hands gives them the fight.
A little bit too late. Had they been a hair there faster, they may have been able to move in and grab that Night Camp. Sergeant Hammer on Supple is down. Gaffle's going to have to thrust his way out of there. Time Trap comes down right afterwards. Nano trying to watch his tracks. With the Night Camp coming in, Diamond Hands continues to be very content with just playing PvE, as they should.
This is a little bit brave by Diamond Hands, potentially a mistake if they don't win this team fight. They're risking a 5v5 against Copium, which is what Copium wants. We'll see. The
oh
instant
my
one-shot, the
gosh,
punish
they
onto
find
2 members.
2! It's a Genji getting sleeped as well. Velxu coming in instantly there, being able to find a 3rd kill, and multiple members getting taken out. My golly gee, let's do an actual quick replay here of that entire fight. Temporal Low comes out, there's a grenade immediately afterwards, and Heavy jumps in. I want to save my Merchant. He gets deleted. Maka as well with the sleep. Beautiful play there by Ana.
Copium having so much bravery to be able to make it to this point in the game too, being so far behind, as we do have a 2v1 in the top lane. Outside of that, Blaze does go down. Diamond Hands trying to keep it going here, trying to stall at the DK. The DK won't be capped by Copium, but the bot lane is opened up here with the 3-for-1. Copium still sieges extremely hard, so they're going to be able to get quite a lot of value here, potentially even getting some damage on the keep. We'll see if their priorities in the Dragon Knight. That's kind of the expectation to negate the globals, but Diamond Hands slips up one time.
Yeah.
Not playing to the macro. One time they take the 5v5 and Copium absolutely just wipes them.
It's like a dam opening up. It really is. They just flooded the map instantly. Now, here's the good news. There was such great macro for Diamond Hands in the early game, they only lost 2 forts there. And usually if you lose your first layer of defense at 19 minutes, you're sitting pretty. And they do still have the double globals available to them, but they cannot afford another mistake like that. Now, if you're on the side of Copium and you're cheering for them, you want them to find another pick like they just had, because that execution was flawless.
So Diamond Hands making kind of a just, oh, they're still going. Even after that, we'll see. They do see that Chromie is top. So this is a 4v5. Potentially, Copium trying to run away, simply DK is the target. He gets absolutely shredded here on the front line, does blink out with the Hellgate, and it looks like Copium will be okay.
Another siege coming in. Sometimes even throwing a temporal loop in the middle of a fight is totally worth it, just to make sure your opponent sit down and defend them, and you get a little bit of wiggle room to get away. And with them being able to jump thanks to that Hellgate on Diablo, he is able to survive and keep all of his souls, but a close one for Copium.
But the Hellgate is forced out, and that is one of the main engage tools here for Copium to really force fights. So with both the objectives here channeled, both the altars in top and bottom, mid is the priority. Copium doesn't completely hate this until the split pressure starts coming in from bottom.
Yeah.
The expectation is that Diamond Hands is going to play through bottom to be able to just push that wave in and create actual core threat, because this 5v5 fighting for a central objective is exactly what the Copium comp is designed to do.
Looking over at Diamond Hands, they are cool as a cucumber right now, knowing they have that global pressure. Blaze looking for murder in the top right. Casper moving in. Can he knock him off his mount? He was unable to do so, but Tori by himself burrows immediately. Brightwing trying to keep him alive. He gets slept. There goes the temporal loop and the combo.
And the anti-heal
Copium finds a pick. Oh my god!
The anti-heal grenade against the Dahaka. Notori thought he was okay. Dragon potentially channeled here. Maka looks for it. They do have the fire from Blaze. Yeah, they're not going to be able to get it as the engage goes on to Caesar Salad. They are in a 5v4 now. Copium with no disadvantage here. Finally, like an advantageous fight. Diamond Hands on the run.
Do you, as Diamond Hands, just try to get the fight here? So you just buy more time until you have Dahaka come up? There's catapults in the bottom hitting the core. Do you just try to slow them down?
You need to just play for the macro and never give them any kind of 5v5. They do have the split pressure coming in here with the catapults in bottom. Finally, we'll have Casper going back. So it's a 4v4 on the map, but there is still a global alive in the Brightwing. So a slight macro advantage here is 90% on the core for Copium. Diamond Hands just needs to continue running them around the map, because every single time they've fought now as a group, Copium has just absolutely just slammed them in fights. Diamond Hands does not seem like they can compete in a 5v5. They need to play the macro.
Dahaka up in 10 seconds. Diamond Hands will have all 5 members there, simply holding the corner here. He's actually all by his own. Some Chromie's rotating over, though, just to help out. Another combo once again. Temporal Loop comes out. Where's Brightwing? Is she nearby? No, she's not. Caesar Salad getting locked down. Here's a phase shift. It does come in, but the heal does not connect thanks to the grenade, and that's another pick for Copium. But can they get these shrines? Everything is blue on the map.
It is so much damage coming out when the Temporal Loop comes out. We have Maka potentially a little bit far forward here on bottom, trying to buy as much time in bot as he possibly can, as Copium likely to not get the Dragon Knight off of this, just try to neutralize the map. So we have Casper clearing out top. There's just constantly waves pushing in everywhere against Copium. That's all Diamond Hands is playing for. They need to get more than 1 kill if they want to be able to actually secure an objective, but they can at least neutralize the map, as the globals are going to be running around just trying to stall things out.
Oh my gosh, we are burning so many calories in this broadcast. I have no idea
it's so
who's going to win. My gosh.
These moments are so scary on Dragonshire in the late game, because you know that one slip up, one lack of knowing where the vision is, one pick just can end the game.
You forget how awesome Dragonshire can be until you're watching Dragonshire once again. Nano and crew moving down to the bottom left, working on these turrets. Gaplo Siege is up. They know they have a number advantage for at least 8 more seconds. They want to see if they can bait anyone into a move. Even coming with the temporal loop on a Zagara would be massive. Heavy playing incredibly safe. If you look at the minimap, he is hiding behind corners. He's just waiting for his opportunity to help his teammate.
Potentially a ninja on the bottom cap, though. Maka looks for it. They're going to have to send someone back. Nano is pretty far forward. This might actually go poorly for Maka if the temporal loop can get out on time.
A little too far.
They also have Dahaka to be able to look for something, so they're very far forward here in bottom on the side of Copium. Their composition is strong defensive 5-man death ball, but if they're a little bit too far forward, if there's room to chase, it's very, very scary and risky to do that.
Comms have to be on point here for both of our teams. Every single detail needs to be communicated. Anything that is a shadow of doubt can be deadly.
And again, Maka, as soon as he sees 5 members, he's going to start looking to be able to pressure the lane and then potentially pressure the objective on bottom. Notori is going to start pushing through top. Once that keep falls, that's a real avenue for Dahaka in particular to play through.
Casper watching the flank here. He knows that someone might be coming in.
It's almost a base race potentially occurring here. He's looking to stall the backs on Caesar Salad. We'll see if it's enough damage. They're just going straight for the core as they stall backs in the base.
Yes, they are. Murden buying time here. Another combo comes out. Caesar Salad is going to take some damage here. There is going to be a huge Devouring Maul on top of Sergeant Hammer, reducing the damage. Blaze is get back.
Blaze.
But the core's down to 50%, Justin.
This is very familiar.
40,
something else I've seen from Notori.
30,
as Justin Tori and Maka is now the teleport in from Heavy. 3 versus 2. They do manage to do it. They take out the core with the back door. Diamond Hands with phenomenal macro once again.
Oh my gosh, Diamond Hands going up 2-0 over Copium. Wonderful macro from them. Copium just could not get the team fights that they were looking for. What an awesome match for game number 2.
That was just outside of the one blip, the one fight on the Siege Giants for Diamond Hands. Outside of that, nearly perfect macro coming out from them. Just constantly being everywhere on the map, channeling the objectives, making it such a difficult game for Copium. Copium winning all of the team fights. They had incredible damage from Nano on the Chromie and a lot of bravery through that mid game to be able to bring it to a point where they can get those 5v5s and then get that opportunity to take that fight on the Siege. But the back door, absolutely incredible coming out from Maka and Notori. Feels like a Notori special at this point to win the game on Dahaka by himself nearly.
Diamond Hands feeling good about that W, but can they close out the series here? Remember, loser will be going home. This is a best of 5, so Copium has to start earning some Ws. Let's see what's going to happen, man. I say we head to a break. We come back, get ready for game number 3. Thank you guys for watching. We'll be right back after this slight break. We have a series that is currently 2-0. And I'm dying for a series to not be a 3-0 or 2-0 in one direction. I feel like this could be finally that dam that breaks open and we get to a game 4, game 5 potentially. Copium versus Diamond Hands. Diamond Hands! And you just sit down if you're not used to this. We have the North American team up 2-0 over the third seed from Europe. Justin, what are you thinking about this?
No, I'm excited. I would love to see a reverse sweep. I think that in the last game, it got much closer than the early game would have shown at the very end, ending in a backdoor by Diamond Hands. And Diamond Hands playing extremely well with the macro. Only a few minor mistakes there in the last game, but in the team fights, it has really felt like Copium not doing poorly at all, especially with Nano on the Chromie, absolutely wrecking it. So I'm excited. I think that if we're going to see a reverse sweep, this kind of feels reverse sweepy, and I'd like to see a series not go just 3-0 for any team. I want to see as many games as possible.
I think anybody wants to, except for probably the players. They want to have their 3-0s. So let's go ahead and hop into game number 3. It is going to be on my favorite map, Towers of Doom. One thing I want to point out before we start jumping into the draft is how these teams have really handled the Dahaka. This is now the third time in this tournament that we've seen a Dahaka or a Blaze matchup, and you either bolster out that Dahaka in the early game, break down a fort and give them a lane advantage, or you kind of leave them on their own and you try to 4-man and push forward. And we saw Diamond Hands do a 3-man in the top right and take an early fort, which I think was really the first major attack on Copium and their composition.
Yeah, it was really critical to do that, especially against the comp that they had, because it removed all safety for the Blaze.
Yeah.
And we just see a lot of priority from Diamond Hands in general on controlling what is normally the weak lane of the map. Even in the first game on Tomb, we saw them put the offlaner top and 4-man through bottom, which isn't a normal strategy. Typically, you see the 4-man rotation through mid and top on Tomb. So just a lot of playing to the offlane, to Nintori in particular, for Diamond Hands so far. So we'll see if the side of Copium is able to play against that, if they're going to adapt in some way and maybe put more priority into the offlane than they normally do. We'll see, because Towers of Doom, the offlane's extremely important. You leave it alone for too long, and I mean, that's a whole... It changes everything if you lose a bell tower on this map.
I mean, one of my favorite strategies in this map is to pick Leoric and literally just double soak for like 18 minutes, and then I get my Entomb, walk down, and just force a fight and get a 4-man in there. So, like, yeah, the double lane is incredibly important here. Now, something else that is important is Diamond Hands were like, all right, we handled the Sword of Hammer pretty well on Dragonshire, but it's starting to become an issue. Let's not give them any strength here. An instant ban coming out from Hammer, which mirrors game number 1.
Yeah, the Hammer ban definitely a little bit stronger here on Towers of Doom, a lot stronger playing around those central objectives. Just constantly you're going to be taking a barrage of damage from the Hammer, and if you don't contest the objective, otherwise the Hammer's going to be just split pushing in your lanes, so it's miserable to play against Hammer on Towers. So a good ban coming out from Diamond Hands, seeing that Copium can play it, knowing that they play it, even willing to pick it on D-Shire, not having any of that. And the Uther banned away, so no double support shenanigans likely to come out from Diamond Hands, like we saw in Game 1 with the Stukov and the Uther. As the Hogger does make it through the draft, we see the first Hogger of this current series.
What do we think about a Junkrat on this map before we get too far down this draft? Is Junkrat a possibility with both Sylvanas and Sergeant Hammer, who have been a priority for a lot of our teams, to pop up here?
Yeah, Sylvanas banned away, Hammer banned away. Junkrat is strong in general on this map, playing around the Sappers and bottom. But you do also have the option to kind of like play different tanks as well that could combo with it. You could go with the Garrosh, which is also quite strong on this map. So there's I guess it depends sort of the style you want to play. Junkrat would play well with something like a Stitches if you're willing to pick it. So part of it might also be just kind of what your tank wants to play. If you want to play really standard, you might not prioritize the Junkrat quite as heavily as if you wanted to get some other priority picks and maybe get it later with something like a Stitches or a Garrosh. But the Murden is picked up here on the side of Copium.
Copium really believing in this Chromie here. The third pickup. So far, they're 0-2 with Chromie. Not saying it's Chromie's fault. Just throwing out some numbers. Chromie going to be that third pickup and a Murden here as well. I do feel like the wave clear could be bolstered out a little bit better for this team, but they can round that out with their 4th and 5th pickup. Ana banned away. They did not like that combination of Temporal Loop into a grenade into death.
Yeah, players were getting absolutely just one shot between the Chromie with the level 18 temporal loop damage with the cooldown reduction plus the Ana. It was just too much damage, and the anti-heal grenade into the Brightwing.
They blew up a
This is a better
Murden.
map. Yeah, instantly deleted the Murden.
Murden's one of these characters that, like, he's tanky, but he's not that squishy.
And
like,
it was that hard to beat it on Dragonshire
Yeah.
after losing their fort super early on at like 6 minutes. On Towers of Doom, you pretty much always have a fort to retreat to. So even though the strategy didn't work for Copium in the last game, still a lot of respect from it in Diamond Hand's draft right now, banning the Hammer and the Ana.
All right, is it time to get our tank here? Actually, with the tank being picked up on the opposing side, they can kind of wait to the 5th pick if they want to. They decide not to, however. They grab a Nubarak and Genji, which suddenly makes that Yrel a little bit more delicious of a pickup as you want to be able to combo those two together.
And a Nubarak is very brave into the Chromie. If you ever burrow in and you're not 100% confident, if it is the slowing sands, we've seen the time loop twice from Chromie, from Nano, but if it is the slowing sands, you completely separate yourself from the rest of your team, and there's no way to retreat after using your E until level 20. And the Lucio also, something that was kind of unseen here, it has gone through the whole draft pretty much, getting last picked, and that Yrel sort of denied and playing the double offlaner, something that Diamond Hands is very familiar with, running two offlaners. We saw that in game 1 from them. No double support, but the double offlaner taken by Copium. We'll see what Diamond Hands takes. Dahaka is still available.
I mean, Leo as well, which can be great on this map, but...
Blaze is up as well. There's a lot of offlane options. We'll see if it's anything weird, though.
Is there enough damage to get kills for Copium?
It's a lot on Nano, again, which just kind of felt similar to before. Hogger does do relatively decent damage, and we'll see what build comes out from the Yrel. Even what build comes out from the Muradin. You have that much of a front line. You could even go for more of a damage-focused, even a Haymaker from Muradin. We see some players go with that. I mean, iconically, like Hong Kona was known for it back in the day. I'm a fan of the Haymaker. I don't know if we'll see it, but if they feel like they need that extra damage, they can. They have the big, tanky front line.
If you're going to do it, now's the time to rip it. Give me the hammer. Slam it down. Get in there and make some disruptions happen. All right, here we go. Copium taking on Diamond Hands. Game number 3, potentially the last one for Copium unless they are able to earn a W to move into a game number 4. I voted for Copium in game 1 and game number 2, but I think this one, I'm going to have to lean towards Diamond Hands. I don't see the damage. I don't see the potential here being that disruptive, especially with the macro gameplay that Diamond Hands focuses on.
So I don't think the game's lost in the draft, but I think that in this draft, there's a solid way to win for Copium just in the team fight. They have triple melee, just really tanky into the Genji. I think that they have a good chance at winning the game through the draft.
All right, here we go. On the far left side, currently up 2-0 over Copium, looking to end this series now. It's going to be heavy on Brightwing, Caesar Salad on Nubarak, Fancy Pants on Hanzo, Dotoria on Blaze, and Maka playing Genji.
And 5 shots of Copium with their tournament lives on the line. We have Gafflo playing the Hogger, not what you'd expect from your ranged flex player. Simply DK playing the Muradin, Chromie played by Nano once again, Yrel played by Casper, and Lucio played by Vexu. In this game, I really think that Copium has a winning draft. Mostly because Hanzo struggles into all of these melees, landing those scatters on a single target that he wants. If you're playing against an absolute meatball that's just enabled by the speed from Lucio, which is what Copium has. They have these 3 big, beefy frontliners that are just going to run at you with the Lucio speed. I really, really like what Copium has drafted here. I think they won the draft. And already a First Blood coming out onto Hanzo, just immediately deleted off the Stormbolt from Simply DK. I think they have the tools. A reverse sweep would be fun.
Case in point.
I'm cheering for Copium in this game, even though I'm an NNA fan.
I would love to see that myself as well. As Hanzo there, as you mentioned, right on cue, having a rough time dealing with all of those melees jumping in, and they find disruption. The thing for me here is if you're going to get those kills early game, I need structures to fall fast, especially that bottom left setup, because once you set it up there and you have multiple melees, it's hard to take back for sure. I just didn't know if they'd be able to get that with a Diamond Hands and their ability to play quite defensively and at a point where they are resilient to forcing fights they don't believe in winning. But we'll see how that unfolds. We head into level 3, Sappers are up, and our team's there immediately. Lucio scouting on the far left, and that leads up a potential invade. And when you have multiple melees, that's always a strong choice.
Yeah, and we see 2 members of Diamond Hands rotating to the top side, so they're willing to just give their Sappers in bottom away to Copium, basically for free if they're willing to take it. Copium not making the rotation quite yet. They're maybe fishing for picks through bottom. I expect them to maybe transition to it. They might not have quite the information we have as we have the infinite global vision here. We'll see if they do transition up for that, or if they just push through bottom. Bottom a little bit more important just in general, as it does have both Sapper camps.
Yeah, Genji and Brightwing both waited for the minion wave in the top side to rotate over, and so no vision was shown that the Sappers were being taken, and Urel was in a position to help out with the invade if need be. So it was just a smart calculation coming in from Diamond Hands and Copium, just playing off what the information they had. It was not a bad plan anyway to perform.
And by the time they did choose to start, it's a little bit too late here, as they're actually going to be the ones with the numbers disadvantage, but they do manage to get out with the help of the Lucio move speed. And they do have the double offlaners, so they have just a good macro setup. They can put one offlaner bottom and one offlaner top. It's what I've talked about as kind of the game sandwich. The bread, the offlaners are the bread in the game sandwich. So the rest of the team can kind of do what it pleases in the middle of the map when you have an offlaner top and an offlaner bottom. So between the Ural and the Hogger, that's sort of the setup for Copium.
Justin, I feel like you really like sandwiches. I'm getting that vibe from you.
I'm a fan of sandwiches.
You're a sandwich boy? All right,
yeah,
that's fair.
I'm a fan.
I had a tasty tomato basil mozzarella sandwich earlier. I'm not going to lie, I played next play. Now, we do have a lot of sieging happening down in the bottom lane as the Sappers get cleaned up, but with the first altars activating in 15 seconds. Typically, we have a massive amount of globals on this map here, but we actually only have Brightwing for our global. So contesting these areas usually actually going to boil down to Genji and where he places.
Ooh, a lot of damage coming out into Yaboy, though. The Brightwing TP is forced out, but that's almost for free outside of the objective phase, so the global that you mentioned is now gone. We'll see if Copium is able to take that and snowball that advantage. They do have a little bit low HP, though, coming out on the side of Copium. They're getting forced back a bit. We'll see if they're able to stall in time to get some taps running to maybe re-engage the fight. But in a straight 5v5 or 4v4 with everyone having full HP, Copium should come out ahead in a 5v5 at this point.
This is where Chromie loves being in. She's level 6, has a tower advantage on our opponents, can siege forever. They tell Blaze, actually, to keep on soaking here, as it seems like Diamond Hands are going to try and slow this down, but they're assuming they're probably going to be losing
a lot of damage on the
altar.
That's a trade.
A quick pickup, a 1-for-1. Murden will go down. There is still a Hogger here to help out, as he will attempt to clear out the waves. And the altar was channeled, so 36-32 in favor of Copium.
Reverse sweep time. Let's go.
I think you have a little hopium going on with everybody.
Yeah, I've taken 5 shots of Copium. I'm on board.
This man's all about the sandwiches and the hopium. All day, every day, sustains his life. Sappers up once again for our teams. And you can see Chromie here. I like the temporal loop, or not temporal loop, the time traps that are currently set up. They give you vision if anyone walks over on top of them, and you can obviously activate them if you want. But the information's more important for trying to grab the objectives here. They take the Sappers immediately when they see the rotation in the middle lane.
Yeah, and Chromie's been leaving that one on the left side of the rotation for quite some time now, just permanently looking for anything, just scouting for that rotation. Yeah. Controlling it just passively from anywhere on the map is a really kind of a neat thing. It's not something that we see like commonly. So Nano really just flexing his Chromie knowledge here, as this is 3 games in a row. That's a lot of hope, especially after losing game 1 and 2, being able to stick with it. Nano does get the temporal loop onto Heavy. We'll see if Heavy gets taken down here.
Spell Shield comes out, and that actually helps out a lot for Brightwing, but can she survive? She ducks back and forth. Heavy calling for help, and the teammates rotate over. Heavy able to survive the full assault. Phase shift coming in. They're keeping up the pressure here. Caesar Salad. It's going to be a massive fight. Simply DK trying to run away, and Chromie gets the lead. And can Lucio also get picked up? He's low on HP, and Maka comes in with 2 kills.
The auto attack from Lucio backfiring there, getting deflected at him, using his own autos against him there. Maka just popping off on the Genji. We had an immediate look at Genji just in the backline, dashing forward again, and now watch, the Lucio auto attack bounces back with the deflect. Maka killing Lucio with his own auto attacks.
You hate to do that. You hate to take yourself out like that. Alter gets channeled up. Simply down here on the right, but with Caesar Salad and Tori having a number of advantage, they're going to disrupt him as they wait for Chromie and Lucio to join the fray once again. 10 lingering for Diamond Hands, and if that 10 connects, Copium is going to have to retreat away from this fight and try to soak up that 10. They do have an angle where they can try to go for a temporal loop and get a quick pick for a number advantage, but I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, this is likely given away, but Chromie playing it very aggressively, trying to get the stalls. It's a very risky thing to do for Nano on the Chromie. He's managed to stall it out for now. They're close to level 10s, that's what they're stalling for, but it's very, very risky to look for these stalls. You step up just a little bit too far on Nano, and it's absolutely not worth it. But they have gotten to level 10. Diamond Hands willing to back up here, willing to take things slow, take their camp, but a 5v5 could come out with level 10s.
They're fighting over it, 2 tanks, and remember there's 3 here. There's going to be the Dragon Strike coming out, doing some decent damage, simply trying to hold it here. They are going to be able to take out the Sappers. Bunker comes out once again. Casper trying to retreat away from the fight, and they are going to be able to grab the Sappers away from their opponents, which might not do much, but still, being able to step up and force out some heroics allows them to move over to the altar.
Yeah, X-Strike does go out, and that's the last big heroic coming out from Diamond Hands, as all the ultimates are pretty much still up for Copium. A big stun here comes out. Casper retreating. They are forcing them back, though, on the side of Copium. They do have still the Ardent Defender and high fives always available. The healer ultimates are up. but now pretty much all the big teamfight ultimates have been used. It's all basically Caesar Salad is almost completely out of mana. He's pretty far forward here, and if you start losing members, you get ran down very quickly by this beefy Lucio move speed engaged comp.
Yeah, sure you do. Lucio trying to keep everyone nice and healed up. Another combo comes out, a big Goomba Stomp connecting as well, but Heavy's able to get out thanks to a blink kill. Heavy, gotta shout him out. He is nailing these spell shields. Chromie's the main damage dealer here. If you hit that spell shield right before a combo comes down, you can at least negate some of that damage mitigation, and suddenly Hogger's getting low, DK's getting low, Casper has to back out. Diamond Hands may have fitted them off this altar core now, but they are low on mana.
Yep, Nano does get gone on there. He's forced to retreat, unable to stall again. They do force him back. That was just an absolute war of attrition. The clashing of HP bars, everyone just kind of deathballing into each other, and the fight took so long that everyone's ultimates are coming up right now after, with no kills. Both teams playing very disciplined, not taking too much risk, not losing too many members, just very calm play coming out from both teams in moments that are so close to getting kills.
Bruh, this has been a good one so far as we continue our game number 3. Copium trying to push Diamond Hands to limits and at least make them fight for this 3-0 victory. Can they earn their own W? In the bottom right corner, Sappers are grabbed as the main focus for Copium is to hold that bottom side, whereas Diamond Hands has made it very clear they want the top Sappers. They want to take out that fort as soon as they can. Temporal Loot comes out. Here goes the windup. Have Hogger move in. Gaffle's doing some decent damage. Yeah, boy trying to retreat. 130 HP. Heavy keeps him alive, and Hogger's in trouble himself. Down to 115. Genji trying to chase. Can he get away? Oh my gosh!
Wow, Gafflo on the Hogger. Oh wait, but on the backside, Muradin's getting extremely low. Simply DK is getting ran down. You have the Burrow Charge coming in.
Dragon Strike! That's going to be a pick there as Muradin gets picked up, and all 5 members of Diamond Hands continues to stay alive. Sapper Camp is pushing in the bottom. Can Hanzo get here in time? It sure looks like it, and Diamond Hands edging out a slight victory there.
And all the while, top lane has been slowly being whittled away at here by Nintori in the top side. The fort extremely low in top, so they've been setting up the map. Once again, Diamond Hands not only playing, not only focusing on the team fight, but also while all this is going on with all this action, always remembering the off lane, always remembering the macro, never forgetting about the map. That top court is set up for some late game potential big shot plays.
Yeah, if you're able to defend the double Sapper Camp in the bottom, and they've done that twice now with Diamond Hands, and you're able to seep away and go separate at the top, it can be very beneficial. But it all comes down to timing and knowing what your team is capable of. And I gotta give my hats off over here to Diamond Hands because they have been playing the strategy flawlessly so far. Only 4 kills to 2. It is a low kill game, but the aggression continues to ramp up.
And the shots are super close. The only real difference here outside of the shots is that top court. So we'll see if they're able to actually transition that into an advantage for Diamond Hands. Right now, the fights have been relatively close. And like I mentioned with Copium's composition, they get 1 pick, and pretty much everyone should die on the side of Diamond Hands with that meatball, with all those mobility spells on top of the Lucio speed. I'm really looking for them to get 1 pick with the time loop and just completely run down Diamond Hands if they manage to get that first pick.
Copium losing their wall in the bottom right core as the Sappers will seep on in while this fight was occurring. Gavlo attempting to try and land some damage on Genji. Finally, a Storbolt comes in. Phase shift coming in from Heavy, keep him nice and healthy. Meanwhile, Yamboy trying to keep Urel away from the altar itself. And it's the same old story once again. Health bar versus health bar, and trying to chunk your opponents to a point where one has to walk away because of no mana or death.
Oh, but you do have the engage coming out here. The X-Strike comes down. Gafflo getting very low. You do have the Dragon Pretzel coming out into the back. Just dodged. Gafflo's okay, but the HP bars are getting relatively low here for Copium. I'm not sure if they all have taps available. Again, it's just a war of attrition around this objective with the Chromie looking for stalls, the Blaze also being able to stall. But Diamond Hands comes out ahead, both in the macro slightly and in the shots.
Yeah, the New Rat Cocoon was actually massive there. It landed straight on top of Muradin, which prevented him from entering into the altar and stopping the disruption. And Casper, who thought Muradin had it on lock, was backing up on the right side and just watching the flank. So a small timing there. Caesar Salad just having a good eye for when he needs to land that web.
And Heavy playing phenomenally this game as well. Members' HPs are getting so low and just barely they're getting by in the mid lane. I thought that maybe Hanzo survived because of a level up, but it was actually just a really good, well-timed blink heal, just barely saving him in mid. We've had just lots of clutch saves here coming out from Heavy. With the anti-heal grenade removed, the right wing seeming to be very, very effective.
Casper moving in, and just a hair too late. The Sappers will be grabbed. If Centauri can force us in with the help of Genji, they can take this fort, and that is a monumental loss for Copium. That'll be pressure that pulls Urel away, and Urel's job in this composition is to watch the flanks, be on the bottom side, be annoying. If she can't be there, suddenly you can dive on top of Chromie. They're actually going to have a full target focus down as Lucio gets deleted.
Yep, Lucio the target there. A lot of pressure coming out from Copium to try to get some push in the bot, and they get flanked for it. We'll see if Simply DK goes down. They're going to continue the aggression here. It's 4v3. They have the dive forward onto Simply DK. The shockwave to peel. Caesar Salad now taking damage, but Muradin likely to go down. He's gone on by Maka. Caesar Salad still taking damage as well.
Oh my gosh!
The HP's so low right now on the side of Copium as one more does go down. Urel does fall in the top lane, actually,
wow.
to Nintori. That's just an off-lane dominance from Nintori in the series.
That is insane that he was able to do that. Nano left by herself. Chromie just stuck in a time trap, and she gets picked off as well. That is 3 members destroyed here by Diamond Hands. There are 4 forts down, a 5th about to be deleted, and only 1 standing erect for Copium.
And all the dominoes falling into place now for Diamond Hands. They set up the top fort previously, getting it super low without taking it. They get the kill, they get the top fort, they get the dive into bottom, getting the bottom bell tower, the bottom fort. This is very, very difficult to come back from on the side of Copium.
This is what I was afraid of. If you lose any of the macro and you lose your forts, a triple melee composition has such a difficult time moving up, especially if your opponent is fortified and in a position to keep you at bay. And with the Hanzo being available here, Genji as well, a Nubrak with the knockups, it's going to be a very uphill battle to get back. But Copium has to do it. Remember, if they lose this map, it's game over for them. They're going home.
Yeah, and Copium holding on to what little fort they have left here in the middle lane. They're almost level 16s. Diamond Hands just non-stop aggression, though. They're pushing in through mid. They're potentially looking to 6-cap here. You have very slowly Hogger working on the top fort. It's about half HP. He's working away at it. They're not defending that for Diamond Hands, but they are going to look for a pick here in the bottom lane, potentially. The Cocoon comes out from Caesar Salad. We'll see if the follow-up is there. It's up to Vakesu to save him, and Caesar Salad knows that. Dragon Pretzel over the top.
Lucio, oh my, he had nowhere to go.
Instantly.
That Dragon Strike was laid out perfectly to make sure to hit on the right side. Lucio tried to skate on by, but you ain't skating through a dragon. There's 2 pickups, 3 left here for defense. Diamond Hands trying to close this game as decisively as they can. They even burrow to the middle of the map. They're working on the fort. Hogger in the top right is desperately trying to clear that up. Muradin continuing to get deleted as well. He's able to finally jump out with 700 HP. Genji trying to go for the chase, but remember, the main prize was a fort to begin with, and look at this, a 6-cap, which means there is going to be sieging shots continuously until another fort is taken back by Copium.
Absolutely just incredible play coming out from Diamond Hands, setting up the map again and engage into top lane with the 6-cap.
Wait,
This should be nearly unwinnable. They do end up getting top, but it's the triple cap, so it's going to be a tough situation here as 2 more do go down. You've got triple cap. This should be game. A boss in 2 shots ends, 3 shots ends.
if another 4 isn't taken, and all 3 of these ultras are taken by Diamond Hands, it's 18 points. There's only 14 available for Copium. Math says they lose, just straight up.
Yeah.
Thank you, 4th grade. Then Tori holding the top right corner of the bush is going to get knocked back. This is a current 3v3. They're trying to keep them away from at least 1 ultra, because that will be 12 shots, which will leave them in the game. Bubble comes out from Casper, but that cooldown being down is massive. 2 HP left for the teams as we head into the last ultra. And Tori going for the channel right now.
The desperation from Copium, but all they needed to do on Diamond Hands was stall for that 3v3 to not actually take place. They do manage to get the stall out in time. They get the dominoes. They get the 6-cap. Absolutely ridiculous.
Diamond Hands pulling out the W here over Copium. The 3rd seed from Europe, thank you for coming out, but we're sending them home as Diamond Hands will move forward in the bracket. And I gotta say, you can do it. It's okay. You can do it. We are in Florida.
Diamond Hands.
I know how to use a flag. Grabbing the 3-0, and the crowd continues to be excited. Onesies and tank tops, and I guess that's a pair of shorts, doing all they can here to cheer for the crew. My golly gee, did you expect Diamond Hands to come out and be so decisive over Copium?
I did not expect them to be that strong. Diamond Hands known to have a good macro play, but in game 2 on Dragon Shard, winning the game through macro, almost exclusively with the backdoor.
Yeah.
A lot of creative play coming out. Nintori, an absolute monster in the off lane.
I can't believe he got a kill in the top lane.
He solo killed him top. He took the whole fort on Towers of Doom.
That was a
He
Urel,
backdoored
right?
the game. Yeah, it was a Urel. Blaze
need-
versus Urel.
I need to go back and look at that. My brain, like right now, I'm trying to think of how that happens, and it just like is melting.
I thought it was in the
man.
team fight for a second. I'm like,
Yeah.
2 for 1 or 2 for 0.
I think
That's like,
Urel
wait a
had to
second.
commit fully because she was trying to stop the sappers from coming in. So that's where you like have the trade-off. If I can kill the sappers, even if I get low on HP, even if I die here, at least it's a decent trade. It's less points on our core. But still, I am just flabbergasted, to be quite honest with you, with how well everyone played here. Heavy in particular on that Bright Wing had a laser focus on Chromie, making sure that he had the pixie dust coming out for that spell armor to make sure his teammates wouldn't get blown up, which allowed for them to go for a fight afterwards. Even with the Hogger jumping in immediately afterwards and trying to find the damage, it was just enough damage mitigation to give a lot of breathing room for Diamond Hands, and that's where they found their kills. When it came down to it, there was 12-2 in kills this match.
Yeah, and it didn't really feel like that for most of the game,
It
up
didn't.
until the moment where there was just the breaking point, and Diamond Hands just absolutely just took the game. And it's really felt like that in a lot of these games where Diamond Hands setting up the map, playing pretty smart, not taking any real risks until the moment that they push the go button, and everything's already been set up ahead of time. So it's cool to see that forethought. Even in the draft, everything seemed to be planned. They had a double support composition in Game 1. They had a completely different double global comp in Game 2.
Yeah.
This game, just really standard power picks, completely different strategies in all the games as well. So from start to finish, draft to execution, Diamond Hands is looking like a real contender
Do we
so
think,
far.
for Copium, I know it's all done and over, do we think the focus on Chromie may have been a little too much? Like, they did have a decent amount of damage, and Nano played it great, but it felt like they just couldn't quite get that perfect team fight to open up the map. What was missing here for them?
It felt like they didn't have like a clear, typically you want to have like a clear tank killer in your composition, especially with a Chromie.
Yeah.
Chromie's job is really to burst down squishies if you get some kind of CC combo. If you have, you really need to pair her with something like the Tychus that we saw yesterday, something that can deal good damage like the Greymane. Yeah, Curse Bullet into Chromie damage can one-shot pretty much anyone, but they didn't really have that in any of their games. Game 1, they had the Tracer into double support. The Chromie did a ton of damage, but it's just not enough on her own. She needs a sustained damage dealer. They had the Hammer in Game 2, but they just got too far behind early on. Nano played phenomenally on Chromie. I think it's more just you need to enable that in a way that she's able to really carry the game with the amount of damage she was putting out. There just wasn't the support for the Chromie, but all in all, being confident enough to stick with it after losing 2 games, still impressive. And I mean, they played well, but Diamond Hands played just incredibly.
Yeah. I do believe we're going to have a North American versus North American matchup actually happening after this. I believe 30K is waiting for Diamond Hands, and that's a matchup that I think a lot of people think 30K is looking strong enough to even go as far to Sunday, maybe make it to the finals, and maybe even win its entire tournament. Do we see a world where Diamond Hands can come out and face off against 30K?
I think after seeing them, I mean, if I would have seen it not today, I would say that 30K should just be the favorite, hands down. But after seeing the games yesterday and seeing these games today, Diamond Hands looking very, very scary. I don't expect that to be a sweep of any kind. I don't expect, unless it's a reverse sweep, I'm not expecting a 3-0 like we've seen up until now. I think that game will go the distance, that series will go the distance. But I honestly think Diamond Hands could come out atop, especially with how well they played. The setup from start to finish, the draft, it seems like they've planned and thought of everything. So.
Which is important. All night last night after their loss, they went and studied the entire time, which is important to me. I want teams to come out here and put their best foot forward. And if they've gotten their drafts and everything set up, we're in for a heck of a match. I could see Diamond Hands taking 1, maybe 2 games away from 30K. I think overall I would still err on the side of 30K earning the W, just because the coordination is really on point. I mean, their match yesterday that we saw, they were able to do well against the Koreans. They didn't get the win, of course. They were 3-0, but like a lot of our matches, there's been so many close matches baked in overall. Now, I think we're setting up for an interview here with Joy, and we'll get an idea of what exactly Diamond Hands believes from there, and then we'll move forward. But that match will be coming immediately after a couple of commercial breaks on our side. And then I think we're going to be pulling up Khaldor and Fan for that that entire matchup, which I think will be incredibly, incredibly exciting. Justin, I have no idea if we're going to see you once again up here on the casting desk, so I got to ask you, who's your favorite to win the tournament?
Tempest.
Yeah, just straight
Tempest,
up?
The Tempest is looking just nuts.
Not washed up? Not 30K?
No, Tempest.
All the way
Tempest
through,
looks really
huh?
scary, yeah.
I've seen a couple of scrims in the background, and obviously scrims aren't a full indicator of what's going to happen in a tournament when you have to do or die to get your victories. But I've seen a few of our European teams, a few of our North American teams actually take a few games off of them and look pretty solid.
I think, it's not like a bold statement. I guess if not Tempest, I'd say Bang Bush.
Sure.
Bang Bush actually, outside of now Diamond Hands, I think Bang Bush has impressed me from my expectations the most. Bang Bush, I was not expecting to look as good as they do. I could definitely see a Tempest Bang Bush just grand finals.
Sure, and that would be incredibly exciting to watch. So remember, tomorrow the finals will be here. We'll be starting as normal at 11 a.m. Eastern. Of course, if you are in the other sides of the country, you can figure it all out just by doing a converter. I'm not going to do it for you because I'll freaking lie to you because time and math is incredibly hard to do. But thank you so much for being with us. Are we setting up for an interview here? We're good to send it over? Okay, let's go ahead and send it over to Joy.
We're good. Okay. We are back with another match analysis. This time I'm being joined by Diamond Hands' Caesar Salad. And you guys just came out of a match versus 5 Shots of Copium. how was it going up against Copium, and how is it for you in general to play against the EU teams? Because now you've only played EU. How is that?
It's a lot of fun. So we actually got to scrim them last week, and they're obviously at a disadvantage because we're playing on the NA server. So feeling them at their full power at the LAN is a lot of fun. It's a little bit of a feels bad moment because us as Diamond Hands, a lot of those members were on like our, I guess like our sub squad kind of. Yeah, but it was great to meet them, play them. They definitely were a lot better on LAN, so it was a good match.
Awesome. Well, that's good to see that you see like a clean difference. Then, what do you think were the most impactful picks in terms of heroes that you guys did during this series? Like, which were the most impactful heroes for you guys that really worked out?
There were a lot, but shout out to our DPS players. DK actually expressed to me how he was frustrated by the Zagara pick. And then I think Maka really had two standout games on the Genji. And of course, Hebi had a lot of good saves too, but Nintori, shout out to Nintori too for really putting it together in the draft.
Yeah. So the Zagara, how did this happen? Zagara is not really a hero you see a lot. Maybe you can see it on Dragonshire, but it's not very often in competitive. So how did you guys come up with this Zagara pick?
Well, whenever you see a Diablo in the enemy team, you kind of think that hero is invincible unless you have percentage damage. So people kind of forget that Zagara has one of the strongest percentage damages in the game. So that's like one of the main reasons we picked there.
Yeah, and you guys opted to go for the Maw, not for the global presence with the Nidus network. What was up with that? You wanted to have another like time stop like ability, like Chromate, to like solo someone out, or what was the idea?
Yeah, it just helps with the team fight, point control. I've never seen the Nidus network picked in competitive, so maybe there's something there, but it hasn't been worked out by us at least.
Maybe there's potential for next game. All right, then I just want to shed some light on your last game. You played an incredibly strong Anubarak, really clean with all the stunts, and a fantastic cocoon to save your DPS. How was it like during the game? How were the comms looking for you guys? Was it calm or was it chaotic at some point?
It was pretty calm. I think we the way they had their draft built, we assumed that they're going to invade bot side. So I think we kind of accepted that we'll be at a small deficit in the beginning. But once we get our heroics to level up, it should be in our favor. So that was kind of the game plan, stay calm into the late game.
I think it's something that you as a team, as Diamond Hands, really have going for yourself. You are so collected and disciplined when you are playing together. Was there any moment at all in this series that it was a little bit shaky, or that like kind of like started to feel like, oh, maybe we're not as collected?
Maybe not as a team, but I was mauling a little bit in the Dragonshire game. I mean, by my own fault. Like,
what?
I was getting looped on cooldown, and if I just picked Hardened Shield at 20, it's free. But I picked Rewind, and it was just a lot harder to play. But yeah.
You have to play Rewind, though, right? Like, you have to. No choice. All right, do you have anything to add before I let you go, Caesar?
Not really. I mean, just shout out to everyone that's like putting this together. It's been so much fun. Kevin, the boss man. Come check out NLG if you're in Miami.
Thank you so much, and good luck against your next opponent. I'm trying to see that will be 30K, actually. So good luck with that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you everybody for watching the video today. I hope that you enjoyed the show and the commentary. And keep in mind that the spoiler protection that is going to run for the rest of the video is made possible by all the support on patreon.com. So guys, if you want to support my work, if you want to help me start new projects and keep the spoiler protection in place, please consider heading over to patreon.com/Khaldor. There's also a link in the YouTube description, and check that out. Thanks in advance, and see you guys next time with more esports coverage here on Khaldor TV. Have a great day.